What's up guys, this is your favorite fanfic YouTuber, the Fanfic Majesty. Join my Discord if you want to chat and share your thoughts, the link is in the description. 4PS Chapter 91 Planetary Devastation. The 5th update asks for subscription. Chapter 91. Planetary Devastation, 5th update, seeking subscriptions. I should be considered the savior of this world, right? Calm words, spoken with an air of certainty. Perhaps it was because Zhao Xu had become too accustomed to playing the role of Gilgamesh in recent times, that such words came out effortlessly, as if it were only natural. Of course, in the heart of the character Uchiha Madara, it was indeed only natural. Uchiha Madara truly belonged to the type of person who dedicated themselves to the world, not wanting people to live in a world filled with hatred. And so, he began to take action, almost sacrificing his entire life for this cause. Although he was ultimately manipulated and turned into a villain, his true intention was indeed to change this world filled with hatred. To say that he was the savior of the world was not an exaggeration. And Uchiha Madara himself believed this as well. Of course, such words sounded ridiculous to the ears of the Marines. A savior? A savior who has killed countless people? Sengoku said coldly. Uchiha Madara calmly replied, "Are you referring to the Marines I killed? But that was unavoidable. If they wanted to kill me, I couldn't just let them, could I? What about killing the celestial dragons? What about getting involved with the Revolutionary Army?" Sengoku angrily asked. "The reason why this sea is so turbulent is because of people like you." Perhaps, Uchiha Madara unexpectedly nodded. In order to achieve a peaceful world, it is inevitable to make some sacrifices. After all, this world is too filthy, unbearable for people. His words were plain, yet they gave people a feeling of being unable to refute. There was no way around it, the nobles were just too good at what they did. The people of the Goa Kingdom didn't consider others as the same species as themselves. The celestial dragons were even more powerful, not even wanting to breathe the same air as ordinary people. HMPH, don't even respect your own master? CPD, wearing a mask, sneered, the Revolutionary Army is truly a group of people who don't know their place. Upon hearing this, Uchiha Ban coldly snorted but remained silent. The entire Marine force fell silent. They were subordinate to the world government, and even if they didn't want to, they had to bow down to the celestial dragons. Advertisement. Even though many of them held justice in their hearts and couldn't bear to see the actions of the celestial dragons. It's useless to say more, isn't it? Garp sighed. The person who once held justice in his heart and couldn't bear to see the actions of the celestial dragons was his own son. Very well, let the war begin. In the next moment, he took a deep breath and suddenly raised his head. His white hair stood on end, like an angry lion, and he charged forward. Akainu refused to back down and charged forward as well. Sengoku was ready to strike at any moment. The two powerful members of the CPD exchanged glances and used moonwalk to fly up, moving around Uchiha Madara like assassins, constantly searching for an opportunity to strike. Boom! Garp's arm was wrapped in haki as he threw punch after punch. He was a true master of martial arts, each punch full of strength, both offensive and defensive. Uchiha Madara's staff continuously attacked and blocked, but couldn't even touch his fists. Although Akainu couldn't compare to Garp, his martial arts skills were not weak either. With Garp as the main attacker and himself as the support, they launched their offensive. His situation was very dangerous, with truth-seeking balls constantly bombarding him from behind, attacking him. Facing the truth-seeking balls that could dissolve everything, even those with elemental abilities would be meaningless. But Akainu still risked attacking, for the sake of. It's now. Suddenly, the strong members of the CPO's eyes lit up. Akainu attracted the truth-seeking ball behind Uchiha Madara, moving a few away and revealing an opening. Without hesitation, they were also powerful individuals comparable to admirals, naturally able to seize the opportunity. Rinbo. Hengoku. Suddenly, the strong members of the CPO were stunned, but without hesitation, they used moonwalk to jump away. Advertisement. Rinbo. Hengoku doesn't seem to work well against people in the pirate world. Uchiha Madara showed a hint of surprise. Rinbo could split its own shadow, and use the shadow to block the opponent's attacks or launch a surprise attack. Because it existed in the world of shadows, normal people couldn't see these shadows or perceive them. But it seemed that the observation haki of the pirate world was just right for this kind of thing. However, well, then let's have some fun with them. Uchiha Madara showed a smile and punched Garp's abdomen hard. Garp widened his eyes. Did this man hold back in their previous exchange? Fire! Vice Admiral Kassan shouted. Boom! 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 Uchiha frowned and punched Garp away, not continuing the pursuit, but using the truth-seeking ball to defend against the cannon fire. He lowered his head and looked at the fleet gathered below. Kassan, don't underestimate us. Admiral Stallo Berry clenched his teeth. Even if it's us, as long as we unite, we can still cause you trouble. The most elite gunners, the finest officers, the most meticulous navigators. The cannon attacks might not harm Uchiha Madara, but they could still provide assistance from the side. It's like mosquitoes buzzing. How annoying. Uchiha Madara calmly spoke. Well then, let's die together. That's your unity. In the next second, he extended a hand. A strange black substance appeared in his hand, gradually growing and forming an irregular sphere. And then, Scattered, above each warship, there was a black sphere. What is he trying to do? Sengoku's expression changed. Stop him quickly. Garp, who was blasted onto a battleship, shouted. Akainu's expression changed, and he rushed over without hesitation. The strong members of the CPO glanced at each other, no longer caring, and kicked off the ground, diving down. But Uchiha Madara suddenly clasped his hands together, looking down at the warships below with a condescending gaze. Planetary devastation. In the next second, the heavens and earth trembled. Chapter 92 He really resisted. The first update asks for subscription. Chapter 92 He really resisted. First update, please subscribe. Crack. 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 The earth cracked. The sea surged violently, causing the marines to stumble and even some to be thrown off the warships and fall down. But they didn't fall far before being sucked up into the sky. The seawater, like a dragon drinking water, rose suddenly under the immense gravity. Even the rocks on the seabed were sucked up piece by piece. Even the warships. What the hell is this? Akainu widened his eyes, but had to give up attacking and hurriedly dodge the rocks and water that kept surging up. Uchiha Madara, Sengoku's eyes widened as he watched countless marine soldiers lose control of their bodies and be sucked up. Then they were covered by countless water and rocks. Planetary devastation is a sealing technique, a ninjutsu that controls gravity to an ultimate level and causes massive destruction to the surrounding environment. It creates a black sphere, then lets the sphere float in the air, generating a strong gravitational force. The ground within a certain range gradually crumbles under the influence of gravity. Then the numerous and varied-sized rocks are gradually attracted to the sphere, eventually forming a floating sphere resembling a huge meteor. In this way, the target is sealed and loses its mobility. Even the final boss Kagayaheim fell under this move. The huge meteor-like object formed after sealing Kagayaheim as the moon. Boom! Under the immense gravity, all the warships had no resistance and were eventually covered by rocks. Only a few powerful individuals like Sengoku and Akainu could avoid the attraction of gravity. Of the 20 warships brought by the Marines, except for one that was cut in half by Uchiha Madara's Rand and Light Fang, the rest were all sealed within the planetary devastation. Including the tens of thousands of soldiers. For a while, the faces of the remaining Sengoku and others turned ugly, and the space seemed to freeze, without a sound. Uchiha Madara slowly released his clasped hands and calmly looked at everyone. Despair, huh? This is Uchiha Madara, the power of a god. With one move, he dealt with tens of thousands of elites. Among them were even most of the vice admirals. Garp's face turned ugly, Sengoku gritted his teeth, and Akainu was extremely angry. But they had to admit that this was indeed a power akin to that of a god. Advertisement: the massive army of tens of thousands. Now, only 2 members of the CPO, Admiral Akainu, Sengoku, Garp, and a few vice admirals with considerable strength remained. Everyone else had been sucked into the stone sphere. Next is your turn. Uchiha Madara calmly said, now that those ants won't bother us anymore. Sengoku, something's not right, retreat first. The leader of the CPO spoke up. He's probably even stronger than Whitebeard now. The leader of the CPO's eyes were filled with seriousness. Whitebeard couldn't have easily dealt with so many elites. Remember, there's also Admiral Akainu, Marine Hero Garp, and Fleet Admiral Sengoku present. Even the 4 emperors, who roam the seas, wouldn't be able to complete this mission in front of so many powerful individuals. Sengoku trembled all over at the words, a struggle and unwillingness flashing in his eyes. Tens of thousands of elite Marines, all gone like this? And he still had to escape. No, Akainu's eyes were almost spewing fire. Do you know that if we give up this time, will there be another chance? Can we still organize such a massive team? And, can you guarantee that Uchiha Madara won't become even stronger? Akainu's voice was filled with confusion and anxiety. He was the first person to ever encounter Uchiha Madara. At that time, Uchiha Madara was nowhere near the level he is now. And when they met again in Marijoy for the second time, Uchiha Madara had become even stronger compared to their first encounter. And now, Uchiha Madara. It seems like every time a certain period passes, his strength increases significantly. Even though Akainu himself trained relentlessly, he couldn't catch up to this kind of progress. Become stronger. Uchiha Madara suddenly turned his head. Don't joke with me. I just didn't use my full power, after all. The next second, he appeared in front of Akainu. Where have you seen an adult getting angry at a child? Akainu's pupils suddenly contracted. Advertisement. The truth-seeking ball attacked fiercely. Akainu hastily used Moonwalk to dodge, but he couldn't completely avoid it. The base of his thigh was instantly disintegrated by the truth-seeking ball. Ah! A cry of pain, blood splattered. Admiral Akainu, defeated. Next, it's your turn. Uchiha Madara calmly looked at the remaining few. Uchiha Madara floated quietly in midair, watching the figures hurriedly fleeing in the distance. Sengoku and the others were all seasoned veterans who had experienced countless battles. As soon as they saw the situation turning bad, they made a decisive decision and retreated with Garp and Sengoku. The others also wanted to retreat, but in the end, they were persuaded by Zhao Xu to stay. In the end, he let Sengoku, Garp, and the crane go. As for Akainu, he continued his frenzied attack, even though he had lost his left leg. So Zhao Xu simply knocked him unconscious, thinking that he would make quite a good exhibit in the future. This is good too, it saves us from causing any trouble and forcing Saitama to come. Zhao Xu shook his head. As for the cipher pull, they were naturally completely wiped out. They weren't as important as Sengoku and the others when it came to Saitama. But, Zhao Xu dispersed the six-paths feather robe and returned to his original attire. In the distance, it seemed that members of the Revolutionary Army had noticed the situation and were rushing over. The person leading them was none other than Robin. You actually won? Robin gasped for breath, her eyes wide with disbelief. Single-handedly fighting against the top combat forces of the Marines, plus reinforcements from the world government. And he still won? It was simply unbelievable. She instinctively looked at that handsome and resolute face. She remembered the words Dragon had said when he called her over. This man intends to carry the flag of revolution here. Now, he had truly stood up to the challenge. Chapter 93. Thoughts of the Five Elders, second update for subscription. Chapter 93. The Contemplation of the Five Elders, second update, subscription requested. Just as Sengoku had initially thought, an army of this level could never be concealed for long. After the Marines set sail for a while, the Revolutionary Army received the news, and naturally, the newspapers also received the news. But now, they hadn't even finished writing their articles and publishing them. They received new information again. The top fighting force of the Marines, along with the strong support of the world government, actually returned defeated? The army marshal died, Admiral Akainu was heavily injured and captured, and tens of thousands of elites were in life or death situations. And all of this was caused by just one man, Uchiha Madara. The man who first appeared and killed the celestial dragons has now grown to a point where it is enough to make people despair. How could he be this strong? Morgans, the president of the World Economic News Agency, widened his eyes as he looked at the news from the Marines. Marshal Sengoku was defeated and the army marshal died. It could be said that the entire army was on the verge of being wiped out. Shocked, even trembling, now, this world is going to shake. Morgans grinned and then ordered without hesitation. Quick, release the news. Just as Morgans had expected, the whole world suddenly shook. The Marines were the reliance of the world government to maintain their status, but now, except for a few individuals, they were completely defeated. Their strength was greatly damaged, which would cause significant waves. All the pirates looked at the newspapers, their hearts filled with excitement, their eyes gleaming. The world government is finished. The Marines are done. Let's see how they will chase after us. Uchiha Madara. Impressive. Even the four emperors had to start paying serious attention to the existence of Uchiha Madara. Charlotte Linlin looked at the face of the man in the news and fell into silence. Kaido squinted his eyes. Can he kill me? Advertisement? Whitebeard laughed heartily. Now Kong will have enough to worry about for a while. That's right, the asterisk country no longer had the qualifications to worry about such matters. Kong, who had been promoted from Marine Marshal for many years, would have to focus more of his energy on the Goa Kingdom, on Uchiha Madara. Even the higher level 5 elders. Uchiha Madara is not from the D-clan, right? In Marijoy, an old man with white curly hair and a fluffy white beard sighed. Not from the D-clan, but still very strong. A white-haired old man with long straight hair whispered, very strong, probably stronger than the four emperors. The four emperors level strong individuals were actually not much different from Sengoku and Garp. Although it was uncertain who would win in a one-on-one battle, it was absolutely impossible for them to fall into a disadvantage in a short period of time. But Uchiha Madara, he was a strong individual surpassing the four emperors. Damn it, who provoked such a strong individual back then? A golden-haired old man with a golden beard cursed silently, recalling Uchiha Madara's initial connection with the world government. The Avenger, Uchiha Madara. It was rumored that he started his training and cultivation after being oppressed by the celestial dragons, and eventually killed them before joining the Revolutionary Army. Including the 5 elders, everyone thought so. Unfortunately, if they had known that he would become such a powerful individual. He should have been killed long ago, muttered an old man with a mustache in the shape of the character, Ba. Yes, he should have been killed earlier. They are all decisive and ruthless, naturally without regrets. Of course, the most important thing is that there is no way to find out how celestial dragons got involved with the Uchiha clan in the first place. Celestial dragons have done so many bad things that even they themselves, and even their servants, can't remember. Ignoring what they have done themselves, what about the things committed by some servants using them as an excuse? There is simply no way to find out. We have to be careful. Uchiha Madara has connections with the Revolutionary Army, said an old man holding a long knife, shaking his head and speaking softly. The Revolutionary Army. Upon hearing this, everyone fell silent. Actually, the Revolutionary Army doesn't have much influence at the moment. They have only recently formed as an organization, and although they have many skilled individuals, they don't have much power. Requesting flowers. The current Revolutionary Army cannot shake the authority of the world government. Advertisement. But the 5 elders naturally know that the Revolutionary Army doesn't rely on strength to shake the world government, but rather on people's hearts. As celestial dragons, they are well aware of the corruption among the nobles. The Revolutionary Army shakes the world government through ideology. Now the ideology of the Revolutionary Army seems to be more clear than before, whispered an old man. It feels more distinct, more powerful in terms of propaganda, even distinguishing between allies and enemies. Among the 4 Cs, the spread of the Revolutionary Army's ideology has also accelerated, and many people sympathize with them. Eliminating them is not difficult, said an old man with golden hair and beard. As long as we find the Revolutionary Army's stronghold, it won't be difficult to get rid of them. But the problem is Uchiha Madara. Upon hearing this name, everyone fell silent. Strong. Too strong. They are not unaware of the strength of Sengoku and Garp. This group of people, with tens of thousands of elites, was defeated by one man. Putting aside the blow to Marine's prestige in this battle, let's talk about Uchiha Madara himself. How should they deal with him? Should we seek Lord IM? Someone whispered. After a moment of silence, everyone shook their heads. The old man with a sword said, Uchiha Madara occupying the Goa Kingdom is not a big deal. The Goa Kingdom is just an ordinary country, and Marine's defeat by Uchiha Madara doesn't mean they can't defeat anyone else. Compared to the size of the world government, these are just minor issues. But they can't let Uchiha Madara live. Everyone looked at each other and began to ponder. Currently, only Sengoku, Garp, and Tsuru have returned, and all 3 of them have suffered varying injuries. All the other forces have been depleted, so what should they do next? How many strong individuals can the world government still mobilize? Or should they use? The 5 of them looked at each other, and while understanding each other's thoughts, they spoke. The 7 Warlords of the Sea. Long time. Chapter 94. They didn't have time to come. The 3rd update asks for subscription. Chapter 94. They're too busy to come. 3rd update, please subscribe. In fact, the biggest impact of Uchiha's victory was on the Revolutionary Army. The Revolutionary Army claims to be an army, but in reality, they are still being hunted and hiding by the Marines. They can only continue to strengthen themselves, develop, and constantly promote themselves, helping small teams of people. Compared to ordinary countries, they are definitely being crushed. But when facing the world government, they are directly crushed. The world government has 170 member countries, and the number of countries overthrown by the Revolutionary Army is less than 5. And these 5 countries are all remote countries in the Grand Line, with relatively backward strength and economy, geographically remote and lacking resources. They are the kind of territories that the world government would lose money to attack and conquer. However, now there is another country that belongs to the Revolutionary Army. The Goa Kingdom. Located in East Blue, 970. It has convenient transportation, and although its resources are not abundant, it is very prosperous. The most crucial thing is that this time, they defeated the massive armies sent by the world government and established a solid territory. Fleet Admiral Sengoku, Hero Garp, Admiral Akainu. Tens of thousands of elite Marines were defeated. This is a great victory against the world government. Although the world government is powerful, it is really difficult to find someone stronger than this team. It can be said that the territory of the Goa Kingdom is basically stable. Many people who chose to stay in the kingdom instead of fleeing have made a fortune. The Revolutionary Army distributed the aristocrats' land to the common people for free, and if you simply look at it on paper, the value of each commoner has doubled. The failure of the world government's army this time has further preserved their wealth. In addition, the Revolutionary Army does not have the demeanor of the nobles. They act low-key and fair, which immediately gained the support and enthusiasm of the people. But for the headquarters of the Revolutionary Army. On Dragon's ship. Dragon remained silent for a long time, his face hidden in his cloak, and said softly, "A great victory. Ivankov, we have been working hard for nearly 10 years, but we are not as capable as Uchiha Madara. Are we really so powerless? This time, it is the biggest victory in the history of the Revolutionary Army. It can even be said that this victory is comparable to the sum of the previously overthrown countries. Because this time, the Revolutionary Army has established a foothold in East Blue. It is the vital part of the world government." Advertisement. But this victory was not led by the leader of the Revolutionary Army, Dragon. Even before this, Dragon did not dare to intervene in the Goa Kingdom, and instead took away many ordinary residents. That's because Uchiha Madara fought his way to victory, Ivankov comforted. "We never expected that this boy would be so strong." Yes. Dragon's judgment was actually correct. This time, there were 2 top-level experts on par with the 4 emperors, and there were also 4 admiral-level combatants, plus vice admirals and elite marines. Even if they attacked the 4 emperors' stronghold head-on, they would win. It's just a matter of how much loss there would be. So even though Dragon admired Uchiha Madara's courage to face the wind, he couldn't take risks in this matter. He couldn't afford to take risks, but Uchiha's team won. Originally, they were only seen as a threat in the eyes of the world government, but now the Revolutionary Army, whose reputation was not prominent among ordinary marines and pirates, suddenly became famous. Yes, Dragon sighed softly, he is really strong. Yes, and he is so strong that some people who don't understand the Revolutionary Army think that Uchiha Madara is the leader of the Revolutionary Army. This is also the common sense in the world of pirates. How can the strong submit to the weak? Dragon. Ivankov hesitated for a moment. "I'm fine," Dragon shook his head. "The revolutionary cause is rising. And Uchiha Madara has become famous as our revolutionary comrade. It's something I couldn't ask for." After a pause, Dragon continued, we should provide some assistance to Uchiha Madara. In the Kingdom of Goa, there are too few Revolutionary Army members in the management. It is now feasible because Uchiha Madara has forcefully attacked the nobles, allowing for the redistribution of a large amount of wealth. In addition, Robin's superb skills have helped maintain peace. But this method can only work in the short term, not in the long term. But will the world government easily let go after suffering such a big loss? The transvestite king Ivankov hesitated. Let go? Definitely not. The reason why the celestial dragons can act arrogantly is because of the deterrence of the world government. The reason why the Revolutionary Army has been hiding is because of the deterrence of the world government. The reason why the common people are oppressed by the nobles but dare not resist is because of the deterrence of the world government. If Uchiha Madara is not eliminated soon, do they think that the pirates in the Great Age of Pirates will only be like they are now? Do they really think that the only force resisting the nobles is the Revolutionary Army? Advertisement. Suddenly, the contact officer in front suddenly received a Den Den Mushi call. After a while, his face changed drastically and he said, Mr. Dragon, something has happened. The world government plans to summon the 7 warlords of the sea. Bartholomew Kuma told us that their target is the Kingdom of Goa. Bartholomew Kuma was originally a member of the Revolutionary Army, a small undercover agent. The 7 warlords of the sea. Everyone looked at each other, their faces serious. The 7 warlords of the sea are enough to be on par with the Marines and the 4 emperors. Among them, the strong ones, like Hawkeye, are not much weaker than the 4 emperors. If these people join, and the world government mobilizes a few more strong individuals, they can quickly organize a team stronger than before. Even the 5 elders might take action. Uchiha Madara won last time, can he win this time? For a while, a shadow fell over everyone's hearts. Dragon, what should we do? Ivankov couldn't help but turn around and ask. The same. Dragon stood up suddenly, and we need to mobilize our troops even more desperately. Everyone's eyes widened. It's one thing not to withdraw from the Kingdom of Goa, but to mobilize more troops to fill in. However, Dragon didn't pay attention to the looks of everyone, just quietly looked into the distance. This time, I'll accompany you. In fact, Zhao Xu also quickly received information about the government's mobilization of the Shichibukai. It seems that they won't tolerate the Revolutionary Army occupying this place. Uchiha Madara, what should we do? Robin looked at Uchiha Madara and asked. What she actually wanted to ask was, should we retreat? No need to worry, Uchiha Madara said calmly. If they come, just leave it to me to handle, and a hint of doubt flashed in Robin's beautiful eyes. Uchiha Madara didn't reply, but silently said to himself. And they won't have the time to come. Damn it, I got the numbering wrong again. I should have known not to put my author's note in the main text. Chapter 95 World Destroyer, Berndi Waldo. The 4th update asks for subscription. Chapter 95. World Destroyer, Berndi Valdo, 4th update subscription. The world government indeed has no time anymore, because they have gained a new enemy. World Destroyer, Berndi Valdo. He is a pirate with a bounty of 500 million, a user of the Momo Momo fruit ability, which allows him to amplify his own speed, the speed and volume of objects he touches, by 1 to 100 times. He was once captured by the world government and sent to Impel Down. However, with the liberation of Impel Down by Gilgamesh, he managed to escape again. It seems that during this time, he made contact with his former comrades and, as a symbol of his return, directly led his subordinates to attack the Celestial Dragon's ships. Although there were still 3 warships escorting the Celestial Dragons at the time, they were completely defenseless against him and were quickly defeated. Naturally, the Celestial Dragons all died. Now the world government can't afford to worry about Uchiha Madara anymore, they have to deal with the World Destroyer first. As the commander-in-chief of the world government, the 5 elders are well aware that Uchiha Madara is strong, but he cannot cause too much damage in a short period of time. However, if this mentality of daring to kill even the Celestial Dragons, just like Uchiha Madara, spreads throughout the world, there will be no solution. The collapse of the world government's deterrent power will take at least 10 years to rebuild. Berndi Valdo himself is not a big deal, although he is indeed very strong, even quite strong. But this act of killing Celestial Dragons, just like Uchiha, is absolutely unforgivable. We must prevent this from happening. We absolutely cannot let Uchiha Madara's audacity affect the whole world. The 5 elders directly issued orders to the office of the Fleet Admiral, shouting at Sengoku. The era of the great pirate Roger was triggered because some pirates who coveted Roger's treasure were not completely suppressed by the Marines when they set sail, which led to a complete collapse later on. This time, the dignity of the world government must not be bankrupted. There cannot be a second Uchiha Madara. Of course, in reality, whether it's the 5 elders or Sengoku, they all understand one thing. Berndi Valdo, the world destroyer, is not influenced by the so-called example set by Uchiha Madara. It is a decision made by the group. In fact, the reason Berndi Valdo became a pirate in his early years was because he provoked the Celestial Dragons, the world nobles. Now, it's just a replay of what happened back then. But it just had to happen at this critical moment. Sengoku's arm was wrapped in bandages, his face grim. Now that the Marines have suffered heavy losses, they had planned to slowly gather their forces and conquer the Goa Kingdom, to subdue Uchiha Madara. Advertisement. But if they continue to wait, and a few more individuals like Uchiha Madara and Valdo, who dare to attack the Celestial Dragons, appear, the world government will go crazy. How much will they have to pay to eliminate all those followers? The only thing worth celebrating is, fortunately, we are currently gathering the Shichibukai. Garp bit into a senbei, one arm hanging in front of his chest, but he still laughed heartily. Otherwise, it would be much more troublesome. Sengoku's face darkened, but he did not speak. With the Marines' fighting power greatly reduced, it won't be easy to deal with Valdo without the help of the Shichibukai. Valdo is a user of the Momo fruit ability, which allows him to amplify his own speed, the speed and volume of objects he touches, by 1 to 100 times. It's simple and brutal, making it difficult for anyone to resist. The normal running speed of an average person is only about 10 meters per second, which is nothing compared to the top fighters in the Marines, but it is the speed of an ordinary Marine soldier. But if it is amplified by 100 times, that would be 3 times the speed of sound. Instantly becoming a top-tier powerhouse, enough to make vice admirals hesitate to claim victory. And Valdo is not an ordinary person. Fortunately, preparations were made specifically for Uchiha Madara. Taking a deep breath, Sengoku let out a long sigh. Get ready to inform the 7 warlords of the sea. This time, they are the traitors, soon, on Fukuoka Island. So, the naval headquarters sent you to attack Valdo? Gilgamesh leisurely drank his wine, noble and elegant. Yes, that's the order from the world government, Doflamingo chuckled. Gilgamesh and his group had already treated this place as a temporary residence. After all, pirates didn't lack money, and Doflamingo was the epitome of wealth. No one really cared about the expenses. They drank and enjoyed themselves every day, and their morale was not bad. Do you have to go? Gilgamesh swirled his wineglass and asked. I have no choice. If I don't go, I'll lose my title as a Shichibukai. Doflamingo chuckled and didn't mind. Valdo is not weak, but he's just like that. It's still much better than facing Uchiha Madara later. Advertisement. Valdo was very strong and had a great reputation. Even though he had been imprisoned and impelled down for 30 years, his name still carried weight, and many pirates followed him. But even so, compared to Uchiha Madara, a hint of fear flashed in Doflamingo's eyes. When he heard that Sengoku and the others returned empty-handed, he almost couldn't believe his ears. The Fleet Admiral died in battle, 2 high-ranking CP0 executives were killed, Akainu was captured, and Sengoku and Garp escaped with injuries. With such a level of power, what kind of revolutionary army are you? You should go and take down the 4 emperors, become the pirate king. Soon after, he heard the world government's summons, but Doflamingo had no intention of accepting it. Being a Shichibukai was important to him, but it wasn't something worth risking his life for. Uchiha Madara was too strong. Strong enough to make him worry that he would end up like the members of CP0. Doflamingo believed that this was not his own idea. Although the government summoned the 7 warlords of the sea, how many people would actually go? 740. That's a different story. It's one thing to gather for ordinary matters, but facing such dangerous individuals, it's better to be honest. Of course, if his king wanted to go, he would go too. Maybe he could take advantage of the situation between Gilgamesh and Uchiha Madara. Unfortunately, his attempt to provoke Gilgamesh had no effect at all, and his plan fell through. Just go to the Shichibukai gathering this time. As for the gathering to fight Uchiha Madara, just find an excuse to delay it. Doflamingo thought to himself, anyway, I've already done my part, finding an excuse should be easy. Attacking Valdo is one thing, but attacking Uchiha Madara? I'm not that stupid. He believed that there were definitely other Shichibukai who thought the same as him. Of course, he still had to consult his boss, who considered the 7 warlords of the sea as his subordinates. There was no other way, after all, he belonged to him. He guessed that among all the 7 warlords of the sea, he was the least respected. Suddenly, Gilgamesh spoke up. Then go. Perfect, you said the other Shichibukai will also go, and I also want to see my subordinates. Doflamingo. He suddenly felt that this battle might not be as easy as he thought. Chapter 96 Hancock, do you want to hire me again? The 5th update asks for subscription. Chapter 96. Hancock, would you like to hire me again? 5th update, please subscribe. The summoning of the world government is not to be taken lightly. Although the 7 warlords of the sea are usually carefree and constantly causing offense, anyone who does not attend this summons will have their qualifications revoked. There is no compromise, no perfunctory actions. It is precisely because attendance is mandatory for the summoning that the world government gives the Shichibukai so many privileges and concessions. Therefore, Zhao Xu has decided, he will also participate in the summoning of the world government. So he disregards Uchiha Madara and directly steps on Gilgamesh's treasure, Vimana, preparing to run outside. Thanks to Vimana, Zhao Xu no longer needs to rush and can run all the way with the speed of Saitama combined with Uchiha Madara's water walking ability. Although Saitama is fast, he can't fly at all. Although Uchiha Madara can walk on water and can now fly, flying by himself is not as fast as driving. Time and effort saving. Zhao Xu relied on this when he rushed from Gilgamesh's side to the Goa Kingdom. The battle did not exceed Zhao Xu's expectations. The world destroyer Berndivaldo was left by Zhao Xu, and he even prepared some surveillance measures. He knows exactly what Berndivaldo plans to do. Berndivaldo's actions will definitely attract the attention of the world government. They have to take it seriously. Otherwise, while Uchiha Madara has not been dealt with, there will be a bunch of people targeting the celestial dragons. However, after Marine was half destroyed by Uchiha Madara, they can only summon the 7 warlords of the sea. Berndivaldo is not weak, his combat power is comparable to an admiral, and his ability greatly enhances artillery and ammunition. It's just that he doesn't have the ability to obtain things like bomb rocks, otherwise it would be even more dangerous. If he accidentally throws a bomb that has been amplified 100-fold by Berndivaldo to Marijoy. That would be interesting. Currently, Marine only has Shingshi, Kizaru, Zephyr, and Saitama who doesn't follow orders as their intact combat power. Considering the responsibility of guarding naval headquarters in Marijoy, it is impossible not to summon the Shichibukai. And the Shichibukai are not the government's free thugs. After this mission is completed, it is impossible not to have a vacation. If it really doesn't work, let Gilgamesh give Doflamingo an order to delay for a while. Advertisement after all, Gilgamesh is also Doflamingo's superior. The final result is probably waiting for Sengoku and the others to fully recover before planning how to defeat Uchiha Madara. As for the Goa Kingdom where Uchiha Madara is located, it is relatively simple. With the dragon's orders, a large number of Revolutionary Army cadres have started working for the Goa Kingdom, stabilizing the order, restoring cultivation, and maintaining public security. However, after Dragon received the news from Berndivaldo, he also came to the same realization as Zhao Xu. So perhaps out of embarrassment, he himself did not show up in the Goa Kingdom, but sent many highly skilled political elites. There is no need to send too many cadres. Anyway, it's too early for Marine to take action. There is no need to worry here. Although Zhao Xu has not completely gathered the 10,000 clones he wanted, there are still more than 3,000 clones. Even if he needs to send out clones to monitor the sea surface at all times, it is enough to maintain the safety of the Goa Kingdom for a while. So, Zhao Xu went, but where he went was towards the country of women. On the other side, Berndivaldo's subordinates have built a huge ship equipped with a super large cannon. He plans to use this massive cannon, along with his own Momo fruit ability, to bombard Marijoy and the naval headquarters, seeking revenge for the Marines who captured him. However, due to the government's summoning of the Shichibukai and the imminent change in direction towards him, he decides to kidnap a Shichibukai to get closer to the naval headquarters in Marijoy. Once the firing range is reached, the rest will naturally be resolved. So, what did you say? Hancock widened her eyes. My sister has been abducted? Yes, Lady Hancock, a group of heavily injured Snake Nine warriors whispered. It's because our power was insufficient. The Snake Nine were originally engaged in their daily plundering activities, with Hancock's 2 sisters, Marigold and Sandersonia, in charge. After all, Hancock herself doesn't go out to work every time. Just didn't expect. Berndivaldo. I've never heard of that name before. Hancock squinted her eyes. Grandma Zhao sighed and said, it's the person the government summoned to deal with. Advertisement. The person the government summoned to deal with isn't Uchiha Madara. Hancock frowned, puzzled. Grandma Zhao. Does this damn girl even listen to what I say? The government did initially summon to deal with Uchiha Madara, but Hancock had no intention of going. Not to mention Uchiha Madara's strength, just the gratitude he and his brother showed to the Snake Nine, she didn't want to turn her sword against a benefactor. Even after learning about Zhao Xu's brothers being in the Revolutionary Army, the Snake Five specifically let go of several Revolutionary Army ships. When Hancock heard the news that the government had summoned to deal with Uchiha Madara, she was ready to give up her position as a Shichibukai, so naturally she didn't pay attention to the change in the target the government needed to deal with. After Grandma Zhao explained for a while, Hancock finally understood. So that's how it is. The government finally got a little smarter, Hancock snorted. They know they can't deal with an enemy they can't handle, so they changed to a weakling. Grandma Zhao. But Berndivaldo is not a weakling. The power of the Momo fruit has been developed to be quite formidable, with a 100-fold increase that is enough to make his combat power comparable to an admiral, and even more versatile than an admiral's abilities. Otherwise, the government wouldn't need to summon the Shichibukai to deal with him. HMPH, since he left behind a lifeguard, I want to see who gave him the courage to kidnap my sister, Hancock snorted, immediately giving the order to set sail. But Grandma Zhao sighed inwardly. Originally, the government was supposed to provide assistance and attack Berndivaldo together with the Shichibukai. Now it's only Hancock alone. Can she really win this war? Of course we can win. Suddenly, a clear male voice appeared in the snake's palace. A man suddenly walked out of the shadows, revealing a smile. I don't know if you want to hire me again, Zhao Xu, the Empress exclaimed in surprise. Chapter 97 Saitama leads the Shichibukai, the first update asks for subscription. Chapter 97. Saitama leads the Shichibukai, first update, please subscribe. The Momo fruit is a powerful ability, even stronger than the average Logia. Berndivaldo is known as the World Destroyer because he destroys everything he sees. This behavior not only threatens ordinary people, but even pirates find it extremely difficult to deal with. So, 30 years ago, the world government secretly gathered pirates who held grudges against him and launched an attack on Brundivaldo, along with the Marines. However, in reality, the joint forces of the pirates and Marines were at a disadvantage and were forced to retreat after a bloody battle. In the end, it was a spy arranged by the world government who took action against Brundivaldo and captured him, bringing him to impel down. But it should be noted that at the time, the Marines were at a disadvantage in the naval battle, because Brundivaldo's ability was too troublesome. After all, with a 100-fold increase, even an ordinary pistol is enough to destroy a warship with a single bullet. On the deck of a sailing warship. Speaking of which, we have to thank you, Vice Admiral Kizaru sneered. If it weren't for Doflamingo, he wouldn't have been able to escape even if you gave him 20 more years. Doflamingo smirked and ignored Vice Admiral Kizaru. If it weren't for Gilgamesh breaking out of Impel Down and taking away many prisoners, including Brundivaldo, he really wouldn't have been able to escape. Of course, Brundivaldo also contributed during the escape. When they broke through the gates of justice, Brundivaldo and Doflamingo also fought against the Marines. Crocodile sneered, Bartholomew Kuma remained silent, and Dracula Mahawk sat quietly in his chair, eyes closed, meditating. They all ignored Vice Admiral Kizaru. We're pirates after all. Are you still expecting pirates to be obedient babies? Vice Admiral Kizaru sneered. He knew there was nothing to say to this group of people. Doflamingo scanned the surroundings. The world's #1 swordsman, Hawkeye, the tyrant Bartholomew Kuma, the sand crocodile, the fishman Jinbei. Familiar faces. Where is Empress Hancock? A burly man with a muscular build grumbled. She may be a woman, but are we just supposed to wait for her like this? Advertisement. Doflamingo followed the voice and looked over. Conqueror's Hockey, a bounty of 220 million. In the New World, he could be considered a strong contender. The world government chose him because he was captured by Saitama and sent to Impel Down. As for Doflamingo himself, he took over Moria's position. There are countless powerful individuals on the sea, and although the Shichibukai are the strongest group, it doesn't mean there aren't other powerful individuals. Conqueror's Hockey is one of them, however. Doflamingo's mouth twitched. Did his boss really intend to make these guys acknowledge him as their king? Fortunately, he was clever enough to come up with the response, as a king, shouldn't it be the subordinates who take the initiative to pay respects? This allowed Gilgamesh to stay on his own ship. It's possible that a fight has already broken out here. The Empress has already discovered the trail of Brundivaldo and is pursuing him, Ghost Spider replied Takashi. Our warship is also heading towards Brundivaldo's direction and is expected to meet with the Empress near his ship. In fact, the intelligence about Brundivaldo's location was sent by the Empress herself. That's good, Conqueror Kashi laughed heartily. I want to see how beautiful the legendary pirate Empress really is. After subduing Brundivaldo, what's next? Hawkeye Mahawk suddenly spoke. When does the Marine plan to go after Uchiha Madara? Ghost Spider immediately answered. We are prepared to go immediately. But before he could continue speaking, Conqueror Kashi interrupted. Immediately? After this mission, I plan to take a good rest for a while. Me too. Bartholomew Kuma's voice was calm. Crocodile snorted. I don't want to fight that monster without any benefit. Doflamingo chuckled. We are pirates, not the government's dogs. Requesting applause. We came immediately when the summons was issued, but you can't keep ordering us around, can you? Advertisement. Uchiha Madara, the man who defeated several admirals. Who would want to fight someone like that without any benefit? Anyway, we came when you called, but you can't keep ordering us around, can you? Then what are we? The government's lackeys. Among the Shichibukai, besides Hawkeye Mahawk who wants to witness Uchiha Madara's strength, the others have no intention of helping the Marines defend world peace. Ghost Spider's mouth twitched. He also knew that this group of scum were all unruly individuals, so he just snorted. Let's discuss that later. What we need now is to first deal with Brundivaldo. Speaking of which, Doflamingo chuckled. Vice Admiral Ghost Spider, are you leading us to battle against Brundivaldo? As soon as he finished speaking, everyone's gaze turned towards him. The strength of the Shichibukai varies, but even the weakest has Vice Admiral level power. The strong ones can even have a back-and-forth battle with admirals. Let an ordinary Vice Admiral lead them. Although there was no killing intent, the cold gaze was enough to make Ghost Spider, who was not weak, feel pressured. It's not me, it's someone else, Ghost Spider gritted his teeth. Who? Sengoku. Garp. Akainu. Conqueror Kashi laughed disdainfully. Oh, right, Akainu seems to have been captured by Uchiha Madara, right? Aokiji and Kizaru need to guard the naval headquarters. Sengoku and Garp are seriously injured, they definitely won't appear in front of these pirates. After all, if any of them suddenly attacked the two, things would become very troublesome. But other than them, who else is qualified to lead the Shichibukai to attack Brundivaldo? It's me, a casual voice, a man wearing a marine cloak but a yellow bodysuit underneath, with a silly smile on his face, walked over. Doflamingo's pupils contracted. It's you, Saitama? Chapter 98. Is it my Zhao Xu's fault for pretending too little? Second more please subscribe. Chapter 98. Is it my fault that there are too few show-offs? Second update, please subscribe. On the swan-shaped boat. You're back. Gilgamesh looked at Doflamingo. Yeah, I saw someone I didn't want to see. Doflamingo's mouth twitched. He wasn't afraid of other Marines, even Sengoku or Akainu. He could joke around with people in front of them. But when facing Saitama, why did he come out? Why didn't he come out when we fought Uchiha Madara? Doflamingo cursed inwardly. Facing the person who sent him to impel down, although he didn't say it openly, he was still somewhat afraid deep down. He naturally didn't know about Saitama's conversation with the Marines. Saitama was not willing to go to someone like Uchiha Madara, who didn't kill much and even stood up for civilians. Even the Marines couldn't order him, but for someone like World Destroyer Berndi Valdo, the Marines could use his power. Yes, that's how the Marines saw it. After all, no one would think that there was any relationship between Saitama and Uchiha Madara. Just like Doflamingo wouldn't think that his boss had any relationship with Saitama or Uchiha Madara. Speaking of which, Gilgamesh suddenly looked up, squinting his eyes. Do those miscellaneous repairs know that I'm here? They should know, right? Doflamingo was taken aback. I didn't hide it. Now that they know I'm here, they actually don't come to pay their respects. Gilgamesh squinted his eyes. It's not something that can be easily dismissed. Doflamingo. Boss, the 7 warlords of the sea and the subordinates of the king are not the same thing. Cough, my lord. Doflamingo coughed twice, forcibly changing the subject. By the way, didn't you want to retrieve your treasure? Of course. Actually, I have already contacted a researcher who has the ability to develop artificial devil fruits. His name is Guy Sakurang, a former scientist of the Naval Headquarters Science Division, Doflamingo introduced. When we find a territory, we can slowly let him cultivate devil fruits. Advertisement. Gilgamesh frowned, dissatisfied. This land is all my territory. Why do we need to find a territory? Doflamingo's mouth twitched, but he still said, that's right, but now many lands are occupied by those fake pseudo-kings. We should eliminate them one by one. I know of a kingdom called Dressrosa. How about? Is that Berndi Valdo's boat? On the Nine Snakes boat, Hancock frowned. In front of her, a boat the size of an island suddenly floated up from the sea. In terms of area, this boat was not much smaller than the thriller bark. Welcome, Empress. Berndi Valdo slowly walked out and stood at the bow of the ship. Your sisters are over here. The next second, the gate of the island opened, revealing the 2 sisters, Sandersonia and Marigold, locked in a cage behind the gate. If you want to take them back, come over here. Berndi Valdo laughed heartily. I will welcome you properly. As soon as he finished speaking, the cannons in front fired without hesitation. What kind of welcome is this? Get out of the way, Hancock snorted. Well, I guess it's a kind of welcome, Zhao Xu smirked. Now he belonged to the hired team. Hancock, what do you think? Charge in. Save my sister, Hancock said without hesitation, but hesitated the next second. Just you. Zhao Xu's reputation was far less impressive than Uchiha Madara's. Hancock wasn't even sure if he could fight. What if? Just you, what? Suddenly, Hancock was taken aback. The next second, he saw Zhao Xu standing on the deck of the ship that looked like a small island, surrounded by fierce pirates shouting in anger, fighting against their own people. Illusion. What's this? Hancock was stunned, then smiled. Advertisement. So, you're not weak either. Do you think anyone can just sneak into your bathroom? Zhao Xu's mouth twitched, not in a good mood. Damn it, is it my fault that I, Zhao Xu, have so few opportunities to show off? No, to improve the realism of the 3 character templates, I let them do all the showing off. It's the system's fault. Hancock blushed at the words. Then the next second, she propped herself up on the side of the ship, leapt up, and boarded the ship as well. Zhao Xu, you have to be careful. The world government's people should be coming soon. Zhao Xu was a wanted man by the world government. The most crucial thing was that he was Uchiha Madara's brother. If the world government found out, they would probably send a large number of people immediately to capture Zhao Xu and threaten Uchiha Madara, who was too powerful. Although this proposition itself was a problem. If I don't tell them Berndi Valdo's location, Hancock hesitated. Then you'll have to go fight Uchiha Madara with them. Zhao Xu rolled his eyes at her. Why did the 7 warlords of the sea gather so quickly and in such large numbers? Because if they didn't gather now, they would have to go fight Uchiha Madara. What kind of ability is that? Berndi Valdo frowned. Standing high up, he could see the situation clearly. I don't know. That man doesn't seem to have much reputation, although I do feel like I've seen him before, Biojek whispered. Zhao Xu's reputation wasn't prominent, and even Hancock, who had known him from the beginning, didn't know if he was strong or not. And he had never made any moves. Biojak remembered him because he was supposedly Uchiha Madara's brother. Zhao Xu smiled and walked in confidently. Hurry up, Han Chen. If we don't hurry, my Saitama clone will come over. Chapter 99 I, Zhao Xu, mainly deal in logistics and transportation. The 3rd update asks for subscription. Chapter 99. I, Zhao Xu, primarily engage in logistics transportation. 3rd update, please subscribe. Are you going to obediently follow me, or do I have to beat you half to death and then send you to Valdo? A giant man, a hybrid of a fishman and a giant, held 2 meteor hammers in his hands. Hurry up and speak. I made a deal with Valdo to resolve you within 3 minutes. 3 minutes? Suddenly, splat! The giant man's body trembled, and he suddenly spewed out a mouthful of blood. In an instant, he went limp and collapsed to the ground. In the moment of his collapse, he saw a figure holding something resembling a heart in their hand. 3 minutes. 3 seconds is enough. Zhao Xu casually flicked the blood aside. Someone of this level can only delay him for 3 seconds at most. So strong. Hancock's beautiful eyes flickered with brilliance. She didn't expect Zhao Xu to be this powerful. Back then, he even stayed on her side and acted as her hostage. Now, just thinking about that time made her blush. 13 hostages? Hostages that even the 9 snakes combined couldn't defeat? Let's go. Zhao Xu waved his hand. Calculate the distance, and the Marines should be arriving soon. Before they come, we must rescue your sister. Okay. Hancock nodded heavily. One advantage of a large ship is that it's easy to hide things. It's just a matter of 2 people, easily hidden. But the problem is that Valdo has already told Hancock about her sisters. Hancock rushed straight towards her sister's direction, the only problem being that she couldn't find the way. What should we do? This ship's interior is so strange. Hancock squinted her eyes. All around were strange cubes. Although there was still a path ahead, if Hancock remembered correctly, they had already passed her sister's location. FFLX. Boom. Zhao Xu punched, perfectly breaking through the ceiling. What should we do? Can't we just go up directly? Zhao Xu smiled and jumped up. Hancock was stunned for a moment, then took a big step and jumped onto the platform. Zhao Xu followed closely behind, sneakily glancing at Hancock's dress. The Empress's Kipao was pulled up quite high, advertisement. As for the cube fruit ability user who was waiting not far ahead, planning to deal with the intruders. Who cares? The 2 of them continued to ascend layer by layer. It wasn't that one punch couldn't break through several layers, but they were worried that if they punched through, they might accidentally harm Hancock's sister. Anyway, throwing a few more punches wouldn't waste much time. But what if her sister was moved and no longer there? What if Zhao Xu accidentally killed her while passing by? That would be so unjust. However, that situation didn't occur. Soon, they arrived at the prison where Hancock's sister was being held. Sister. Lady sister. Sandersonia and Marigold. Hancock finally breathed a sigh of relief. I'll rescue you right away. The cage imprisoning Sandersonia and Marigold was suspended from the ceiling. But that didn't pose a problem for Hancock. She leapt up, her tall figure displaying graceful curves, her slender legs tracing a beautiful and dangerous arc. Bang! With one kick, the steel cage shattered into petrified pieces. However, at this moment, you guys came, that's good. A strong and aged voice rang out. Is it you? Hancock's face changed. World Destroyer, Valdo. World Destroyer Valdo, he has the power of an admiral. While Hancock's talent is not bad, she is still young and dare not compare herself to an admiral. You guys came just in time. Now, no one can leave. Valdo laughed heartily, his eyes narrowed. In the next second, he rushed forward, then, bang. Zhao Xu slapped him, and Valdo flew back faster than he came. Boom. He crashed into the surrounding walls, creating a large humanoid hole. Hancock. She had just wanted to make a move, but Zhao Xu sneered in his heart, there was nothing to do. Just an admiral-level combat power, he used to play with it like a ball. Advertisement now. On the other side of Uchiha Madara's clone, there is another unlucky admiral waiting there. Alright, let's go. Zhao Xu waved his hand and didn't care whether Valdo was dead or not, he directly walked outside. But, Hancock frowned and glanced at Valdo's figure. As a user of Grandmaster Observation Hockey, she could tell that Valdo was not dead at all. At most, after a few seconds, his dazed head would regain consciousness. Why not take advantage of this moment? In the next second, Zhao Xu smiled and gave the reason. The Marines have arrived. From now on, it's none of my business. Remember to pay the hired money on time. Saying that, Zhao Xu casually waved his hand and his figure disappeared instantly. Speaking of which, others may not believe it, but he is actually a pacifist. He, Zhao Xu, specializes in logistics transportation as his main business, specifically delivering clones to several places. His sideline is being a cheerleader, a profession that shouts, 666, from behind. As for fighting and brawling, he only does it occasionally, he can even avoid it if he can. He advocates peace completely. After all, fighting and brawling, that's Uchiha Madara, Gilgamesh, and Saitama's fault. What does it have to do with me, Zhao? At the same time, the marine warships, along with several pirate ships of different appearances, surrounded Valdo's giant ship. The Shichibukai each sat on their own ships, while on the marine ships. Ladies and gentlemen, I'll go to the restroom first. Saitama yawned and said something that left Toshigi and others speechless. But there was a little loli in a maid outfit next to him who suddenly became excited. Mr. Saitama, do you need me to bring you some toilet paper? No need, if I need it, I'll call you. Oh, okay. The little loli looked disappointed. Saitama, sigh. Bring me toilet paper, why don't you wipe my butt for me? Wait, do I, a clone, need to wipe my butt? Can I even poop? Saitama pursed his lips and walked into the restroom not far away. And then, 30 seconds later, Saitama walked out of the restroom with a smile on his face. Actually, I think not only can we wipe our butts, but we can also help each other wash our bodies when taking a bath. Now, I am myself. Chapter 100 Serious Killing Series, 4th update. Please subscribe. Chapter 100. The Serious Series of Certain Death, 4th update, seeking subscriptions. On the warship, everyone's eyes were fixed on the man in front of them. With a silly and cute expression, a peculiar yellow tight-fitting suit, and an unconventional cape. He is the captain of this warship. This joint operation with the Shichibukai is led by him. Saitama looked around. Toshigi was his old subordinate, and Kizaru was sent by the naval headquarters to prevent Saitama from giving any strange orders. And the little girl from earlier, originally baby 5 of the Don Quixote family, after being captured by Saitama last time, she started following him. The reason? Probably because Saitama casually said, "It would be nice if someone could bring me the first cup of tea." And then baby 5 slowly became Saitama's little maid. V=_= Although Toshigi was somewhat dissatisfied with this, considering that there was no one at baby 5's home and she had been kidnapped by the Don Quixote family for a long time, her education was twisted, so she accepted it. Although Doflamingo later became one of the 7 warlords of the sea, it seems that he didn't take her back. Perhaps he still wanted to obtain some information from baby 5. Shall we start the battle now? Saitama yawned and asked. Not yet. Toshigi hesitated and said, I don't know what the situation is, but even though we have approached, it seems like they haven't noticed us at all. Because I confused their leader earlier. Saitama thought to himself, but still maintained that expression. Then, Toshigi, are there no innocent people inside? Are they all extremely wicked criminals? Yes. Toshigi nodded. In this world, pirates are basically ruthless criminals. Like Luffy, who is a pirate in name but more like an adventurer, not to say that he is unique, but there would only be 1 in 100. Burndy Valentine, a notorious figure, naturally attracted more wicked pirates, and there were no innocent people among them. Saitama Rear Admiral, you truly are a person with a sense of justice, Toshigi thought to herself. Advertisement Saitama's words were already a standard line every time, but there weren't many times he held back. Occasionally, there were a few instances where pirates took hostages. At these times, Saitama would always charge in alone, rescue all the hostages, and then consider other matters. When Saitama refused the Marine's mobilization order, there were many objections within the Marine, and some people who were not happy with Saitama's rapid promotion secretly said a lot of things. But the soldiers on the ship, even the janitors, never wavered. Saitama, as a vice admiral, upholds justice, he would never do anything unjust. As for his promotion speed, just look at Saitama's record as a vice admiral. In such a short period of time, he has killed or captured more pirates than Kizaru, who is known for his experience and speed. A person like him deserves more than just a vice admiral position. For example, kicking down a certain lazy admiral who always rides a bicycle slowly and promoting Saitama to rear admiral. Now that there are no innocent civilians left, let's begin. Saitama nodded and walked directly onto the deck. Yes. Toshigi and the others responded skillfully, and then. Begin dropping anchor, secure the ship, and prepare for impact. The nearby ghost spider couldn't help but be stunned by the scene. Aren't we supposed to go to war? What are you all doing? But this time, the overall commander is Saitama, and these people are all directly under Saitama. He could only walk to Toshigi's side and ask indirectly, don't we need to inform the 7 warlords of the sea? Toshigi smiled at the words, with a pride different from that of the naval headquarters. No need. Saitama Vice Admiral never needs dirty pirates to help. On the other side, Burndy Valdo finally woke up. Damn it. Damn it. Damn it. His face was full of anger, raging uncontrollably. That damn pirate empress, and that person. Damn it. Damn it. Damn it. They all deserve to die. Valdo, calm down a bit. The voice of his brother Biojek came from the Den Den Mushi. The Marines are here now, and the Shichibukai are all there. What should we do? Advertisement? Escape? If we sink the ship now, we might still have a chance. No need. Before he could finish, Burndy Valdo interrupted. They're here just in time, saving me the trouble of finding them one by one. Biojek, bring out the cannons. I want them to taste the power of the giant cannon. Biojek hesitated for a moment but ultimately followed Burndy Valdo's command. Soon, the cannon door in front of the ship, like a small island, opened, revealing a huge cannon. That cannon was as big as a small ship, with an extremely long barrel and enormous cannonballs, even taller than an average person. What a big cannon! Doflamingo squinted his eyes. Combined with that guy's ability, it's quite troublesome. The fishman pirate Jinbei remained silent. Bartholomew Kuma put away the book in his hand, revealing the paw of his palm. Even if that giant cannon couldn't hit anyone, the waves it created were enough to capsize the ship. There were quite a few devil fruit users here. Soon, they saw a sturdy figure standing next to that giant cannon. World Destroyer, Burndy Valdo. He held the cannon with one hand, his eyes filled with ferocity. Momo, 100-fold cannon, the next second, boom. The cannon roared. A massive cannonball shot out, visibly expanding at an incredible speed, in a short time growing to the size of a small mountain. The warships were all under the shadow of that cannonball. The pupils of the Shichibukai widened, the next second. The deadly serious series. A man wearing a yellow bodysuit suddenly rushed from the marine deck. Seriously Punch. Chapter 101 So you can never become a king, please subscribe for the 5th update. Chapter 101. So that's why you can never become king, 5th update, please subscribe. Saitama threw a punch. In an instant, everyone felt that the sky in front of them shattered. The fierce gust of wind from the punch roared, tearing apart the sea and lifting it up on both sides. Then, it hit that huge cannonball with a bang. The cannonball almost instantly turned into fragments from the front, torn apart and devoured. Finally, it turned into nothingness. The 7 warlords of the sea behind him widened their eyes. A punch? Just one punch? One punch destroyed the cannonball with 100-fold amplification? Don't underestimate that originally not so small cannonball. With Berndivaldo's ability to amplify, it became a genuine cannonball. Whether from the inside or outside, the quality and materials were all the same. It truly enlarged the cannonball 100-fold without any exaggeration. But, 980, under one punch, it was completely shattered. Even after shattering the cannonball, this punch was not finished. The island-like ships, the steel cannons, everything was shattered by that one punch. Berndivaldo, the world destroyer with a bounty of 500 million, didn't even have a chance to cry out before completely dissipating. In an instant, all the strong people around fell silent. Only the waves caused by the gust of wind created by the punch made the sailors on the ships shout, adjusting the direction of the helm to face the impact. Apart from that, there was no sound at all. Jinbei, the fishman pirate, widened his eyes. Hancock opened her small mouth. Mahawk, with his hawk-like eyes, instinctively tightened his grip on the sword hilt. This marine is actually this strong. Just one punch. One punch destroyed Berndivaldo, who was almost as strong as themselves, along with the entire ship. If they hadn't seen it with their own eyes, they would definitely think someone was joking with them. No wonder you dropped anchor early. No wonder you don't need to command the 7 warlords of the sea. No wonder you're so calm. The spider ghost subconsciously trembled, only then realizing that he had been trembling for a while. Advertisement under such a punch, it was strange not to tremble. The spider ghost stared blankly at Saitama, who was standing on the deck with a dumbfounded expression. In fact, the evaluation of Saitama within the marine was quite polarized. Saitama's strength is indeed not weak, everyone agrees, and he has worked hard to eliminate pirates. But he rose too quickly, joining the marine only a year or two ago and already standing at the same position as someone who has been struggling on the sea for over a decade. Even the spider ghost himself occasionally had some thoughts about this, it's human nature. But the spider ghost knew that Saitama became a vice admiral by fighting for it, it was what he deserved, so on ordinary days, he also acknowledged Saitama. However, when Saitama defied orders during the subjugation of Uchiha Madara, many people within the marine began to resist him. As a marine, why not fight? If you defy orders, can you still be considered a marine? The spider ghost also had this thought, and he even had some complaints about assisting Saitama when Sengoku the Fleet Admiral ordered him to. In terms of military merit, I'm not weak either. In terms of seniority, I'm 100 times stronger than Saitama. Why am I being asked to assist him? Now the spider ghost understood why. He also understood why Sengoku, despite Saitama's significant defiance, only lightly reprimanded him without stripping him of his vice admiral title. Because he is strong. This power is so strong, it is enough to hold the future hopes of Marine. After I go back, I must strongly condemn those who gossip. Ghost Spider secretly thought to himself, if they really push away such a strong person who is dedicated to justice, it would be a loss for the forces of world justice. Thinking this, he seemed to feel a sense of mission. Shui Ziyao Wang. Toshigi secretly glanced at Ghost Spider, the vice admiral, and secretly laughed to herself. She could see the changes in Ghost Spider's expression, and as a marine, she naturally knew some of the idle talk at naval headquarters. But it doesn't matter, Vice Admiral Saitama may not socialize with others or oppose them, but he will continue to attract strong individuals like Vice Admiral Ghost Spider to gather around him. Because Vice Admiral Saitama is very strong. On the other side, among the Shichibukai, so strong. Including the unruly Doflamingo, they all fell silent. Is this level of strength against the rules? They are all pirates, and as pirates, they are naturally opposed to the Marines. This is not something that the title of 7 Warlords of the Sea can resolve. Advertisement moreover, there are quite a few individuals with ulterior motives among them. But in the face of such a strong individual, what use is having ulterior motives? Doflamingo suddenly noticed the indifferent Gilgamesh drinking wine behind him. After a moment of silence, he spoke up. My king, how do you see this battle? What is there to see? Gilgamesh yawned leisurely and elegantly. From the very beginning, I haven't been paying attention. Although the Shichibukai are all mixed breeds, they are still renowned heroes. I never expected that we would fall to the point of needing to unite to deal with something like this. It's truly lamentable. Don't you think so, Doflamingo? Doflamingo's mouth twitched. That's not what I wanted to ask. Besides, maybe we can handle Brundivaldo ourselves, but who would fight desperately for the sake of the Marines? His mouth twitched, and Doflamingo straightforwardly said, King, I'm talking about that person named Saitama. What do you think of him? Much stronger than you, a mixed breed. Gilgamesh calmly said, with a smile on his face, as if he didn't care at all. Your power is nothing more than insignificant in front of him. And, what about you? Doflamingo squinted his eyes and probed. What do you want to say? Gilgamesh looked at him with a smile that seemed like a smile. Nothing. Doflamingo smirked. I just feel that the abilities you've shown seem to be a bit inferior to this Marine Vice Admiral. He didn't say the last part of the sentence, but the meaning in his words was very clear. For a moment, the powerful pirates around Gilgamesh were somewhat moved. To be honest, this group of people gathered here, firstly because Gilgamesh had a charismatic personality, and everyone believed that he would achieve great things in the future. Secondly, it was because Gilgamesh was very strong. Strong enough to possibly take the position of one of the 4 emperors with them. Otherwise, how could this group of powerful individuals willingly submit to others? So, you're just a mixed breed, and you can never become a king. Gilgamesh chuckled lightly, disdainfully saying, the so-called king is quite reserved. When I start to seriously deal with you mixed breeds, it means I have already been defeated. I recommend a book to my friend, Hokage, the swordmaster of the ninja era. Why is this person writing such an old cheat? Swordmaster, that's Kenshin's. Chapter 102 Hina, very dissatisfied, the 6th update asks for subscription. Chapter 102. Hina, very dissatisfied, 6th update, seeking subscriptions. The 7 warlords of the sea, in the end, left with mixed feelings. At the same time, they also carried a doubt. With such strong power, couldn't he solve it himself? Why did he call us to come? That's a good question. Tashigi and the others also wanted to ask, and Sengoku probably wanted to ask himself why he had called the 7 warlords of the sea to come. Wouldn't it be better to leave the opportunity for them to go and fight Uchiha Madara together? But no matter what, the problem has been resolved. The powerful world destroyer Brundivaldo, with a bounty of 500 million, died, and his subordinates were also killed together. Vice Admiral Tashigi hurriedly reported to Naval Headquarters, and then was met with the long silence of Fleet Admiral Sengoku. Finally, Sengoku made a decision. Order Vice Admiral Saitama to return to Naval Headquarters. His Vice Admiral promotion ceremony should also be made up. With these words, although Saitama became a Marine Vice Admiral, he had never been to Marineford. He began his journey back. Saitama also had no objections, but Tashigi felt a bit regretful. After returning to Naval Headquarters, it is estimated that the acting captain, who had been absent for a long time, should also take over. It was time for her, as the temporary first mate, to hand over her work. There was no way. Although Tashigi worked hard, constantly striving to reduce the frequency of mistakes. But she was only 12 or 13 years old, not much older than Baby 5, Saitama's personal maid. Naturally, she lacked experience. If it weren't for Saitama taking care of all the battles, they would only need to do auxiliary work and guard the prison, and they would have made frequent mistakes long ago. In fact, there have been many jokes, but under Saitama's fist, they were unharmed. Indeed, I still feel a bit reluctant. Tashigi pouted her small mouth. The place where everyone fought was not far from Naval Headquarters to begin with. Brundivaldo originally wanted to attack Naval Headquarters in Marijoy. Saitama was not in a hurry and leisurely moved forward, capturing several pirates along the way. This made Vice Admiral Tashigi secretly nod. Indeed, Vice Admiral Saitama, no matter when, never forgets to punish evil. Advertisement. It can only be said that when someone has determined that he is good, everything he does is good. If he hadn't just demonstrated his power, it is estimated that in Vice Admiral Tashigi's mind, it would have changed to, doesn't even have the appearance of a Marine, called for a headquarters meeting, and still went to catch pirates so slowly? Even though Saitama captured many pirates along the way, they quickly arrived at Naval Headquarters. Naval Headquarters is close to the crescent-shaped pier, near the shore, allowing returning Marines to quickly reach the headquarters. Saitama naturally did the same. When he got off the ship, he immediately saw Sengoku, Garp, and Zephyr standing on the shore, waiting for him. The ceremonial guard of the Marines stood neatly beside them. Tashigi was suddenly excited. Fleet Admiral Sengoku, Hero Garp, Instructor Zephyr. Such important figures actually came to the shore to welcome Vice Admiral Saitama? Zephyr smiled and looked at Sengoku. Sengoku had already removed the bandages from his hands, probably because he didn't dare to show weakness as the Fleet Admiral in front of so many Marines. He showed a gentle smile, but occasionally pulled at his arm, causing his mouth to twitch. Sengoku's face turned serious, and he shouted, "Salute to Vice Admiral Saitama, who fought hard." Brush. Brush brush. Countless elite soldiers saluted Saitama in the center with the most neat military posture. Even Tashigi, who was usually careless, subconsciously straightened her body in the solemn atmosphere. Not to mention others, they all straightened their bodies completely, as if they were a straight line. Only Saitama. No need to exaggerate like this, Saitama said calmly, his voice still sounding like he hadn't eaten enough. Sengoku couldn't help but laugh and cry. He had never seen a man like Saitama before. Those who had received marine salutes, whether it was the fierce Akainu, the careless Kizaru, or the lazy Aokiji, all straightened their bodies and accepted everyone's salute with the most heroic posture in this situation. But Saitama, shaking his head, Sengoku said softly, "This is what you deserve." With his own strength, he defeated the world destroyer, Waldo. How inspiring. After Marine's previous failed expedition against Uchiha Madara, the entire Marine was shrouded in shadow, even more disheartened than the first failed expedition against Uchiha Madara. Advertisement at this time, heroes were needed to boost Marine's morale. Saitama was such a hero. RR. Kizaru looked at Saitama in front of him, squinting his eyes. I hope some people can open their eyes a bit and not go too far. Saitama's promotion ceremony as Vice Admiral would be held later, and during this time, he would stay at naval headquarters with Toshigi and others. Toshigi and the others would also receive generous rewards. Promotions and rewards were given accordingly. Of course, unlike Saitama, who needed a ceremony, their promotions were simpler and normal. During this period, Sengoku didn't want Saitama to go out. Naval headquarters was fine, but Marijoy above and Saboti Archipelago nearby often had celestial dragons appearing. If they were to have a dispute, it would be difficult to handle. So Saitama leisurely ate and drank at naval headquarters. It must be said that although naval headquarters was like a military camp, the food there was very good. Fine wine, high-quality meat, rich dishes, and skilled chefs. Saitama didn't hold back and immediately started eating and drinking. Then he asked the marine chef to specially make him a type of food, French fries. Thank you. Saitama smiled with his standard expression of a salted fish. I like long French fries. Yes, Vice Admiral Saitama. No need to be so serious, I just wanted to eat some French fries. This strange conversation happened many times in the high-class cafeteria of Marine. But this time, click, click, click. The crisp sound of high heels echoed. Saitama looked up at the sound and saw a tall woman with a cool pale pink center-parted long hair staring at him. Are you Saitama? My future superior? Hina, very dissatisfied? Advertisement Chapter 103 A meteorite appears above naval headquarters. The first update asks for a subscription. Chapter 103. Meteorite appears above naval headquarters. First update, please subscribe. Hina, very dissatisfied. Hina snorted lightly, a hint of dissatisfaction flashing in her eyes. She was truly very dissatisfied. Although Hina is not yet the future Vice Admiral, she already holds the rank of Lieutenant Commander as Zephyr's disciple. At her young age of 23, her future is limitless. Not everyone can enter the Marines and become a Rear Admiral with formidable strength like Saitama. As a Lieutenant Commander, Hina has the ability and qualifications to command a warship even at naval headquarters. But why should she serve as someone else's vice officer when she can be in charge herself? And it's for this guy who doesn't follow military orders. Hina cursed inwardly, her expression unpleasant. Not following military orders is a grave mistake in the strict hierarchy of the military organization. Even if you can prove you were right in the future, this mistake is enough to nullify all achievements. Such a person can be said to be unworthy of being a soldier. However, Saitama just looked at her with a dumb and silly expression. Who are you? Hina's eye twitched. Hina, Naval Headquarters Lieutenant Commander, soon to be your vice officer. Vice officer? Saitama paused for a moment, then suddenly realized and clapped his hands. Oh, that thing the old man was talking about. Then I'll be relying on you in the future, ha ha, ha ha ha. Seeing that silly and dumb face smiling, Hina's eye twitched in anger. Doesn't this guy understand that she is expressing her dissatisfaction? In fact, it's not just Hina, many people in the Marines are quite dissatisfied with Saitama. His rapid promotion has easily aroused the hostility of others. For example, Hina, who trained hard in the Marine training camp, constantly participated in battles, but at this moment, she is only a lieutenant commander. Meanwhile, Saitama has already reached the highest position below Admiral, Vice Admiral. Of course, if it were just that, it wouldn't make others so jealous. After all, Saitama's promotion was well-deserved, and coupled with the publicity of the Marine supernova, it was somewhat acceptable. But with his defiance of orders, all of this has become completely meaningless. As a Marine, being excited, advertisement, how dare you, on what grounds? The failure of this expedition against Uchiha Madara was too great. Almost all of the world government's people were wiped out. Tens of thousands of elite Marines did not return. Admiral Akainu was severely injured and captured. Only Sengoku and Garp managed to escape with injuries. Saitama is very strong. If you're so strong, why didn't you join the battle? If you had participated, would the Marines have suffered such great losses? This resentment fills the hearts of all Marines. Since Roger's death, the Marines have never suffered such a big loss. They have directed all their resentment towards Saitama, using him as their outlet. I don't want to be your subordinate. Hina coldly snorted. As a Marine who can't even follow orders, you're not worthy of my loyalty. In reality, it is a very proud achievement to become the Vice Admiral's vice officer with the rank of Lieutenant Commander. Because usually, the Vice Admiral's vice officer must be at least a Commodore or Captain, not just a Rear Admiral. Hina knew very well that her identity as a Zephyr disciple gave her a significant advantage, which is why she was arranged by Sengoku to be Saitama's deputy. If nothing unexpected happened, she would immediately be promoted as Saitama carried out a few missions. She definitely rose through the ranks much faster than Smoker, who was at the same level. B. I don't want to serve under someone who can't even be called a soldier, Hina said coldly, taking a deep breath. Then, she lit a cigarette. Serve under me? Saitama looked at Hina with a dumbfounded expression, hesitated for a moment, and said, although you're pretty, I don't like girls who smoke, so. Get lost. Hina was so angry that she almost swallowed the cigarette. What I meant was that I don't want to be your subordinate. Subordinate. Saitama tilted his head. I don't have any subordinates. How can a hero have subordinates? Huh? Hina sneered, her eyes filled with disdain. As a marine, you don't even have superiors and subordinates. How can you carry out missions? How can you allocate combat assignments? You're not worthy of being a soldier. With that, she snorted and walked away with big strides. Advertisement. Saitama watched her figure and rubbed his chin. Then, oh, the fries are here, thank you. For the next few days, Saitama stayed at the naval headquarters. Saitama was a lazy person by nature, and if there were no news about the marine monsters, he could stay at home all the time. Sengoku and the others also breathed a sigh of relief. It's good to have a lazy person, it's good to have a lazy person. With a lazy person, there's no need to go to places like Saboti Archipelago and see the celestial dragons. For this reason, Sengoku even specifically ordered a raise for the chef responsible for making fries for Saitama and continued to hint at the operational directive of keeping Saitama in the cafeteria. As for Hina, she hadn't appeared since that day. I don't know if she's applying for a transfer from her teacher Zephyr and Sengoku to be transferred from Saitama's deputy. On the other hand, Toshigi came over after a few days, bouncing happily in front of Saitama with a face full of joy. It seems that she has been showing off her newly promoted lieutenant rank for the past few days. And so, a few days passed. It's about time. Saitama, lying in his room, suddenly flashed a completely different Wang Dezhou light in his eyes. Zhao Xu's eyes flashed with the unique purple ripples of the Rinnegan, and he formed hand seals. With my current abilities, the power I can unleash should be much stronger. Tengai Shinsei. Powerful chakra erupted in the room but was perfectly controlled within the room, without leaking outside. Very good. Zhao Xu smiled and quickly returned to Saitama's usual silly expression. Buzz. 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 The alarm of the Marines suddenly sounded, accompanied by a slightly panicked broadcast. Alarm! Alarm! A giant meteorite has appeared above the naval headquarters. Everyone, evacuate immediately. Brothers and sisters, I'm back. Damn it, let's continue to curse him. Chapter 104. What you said really makes sense. I am actually speechless. Please subscribe for the second update. Chapter 104. What you said makes sense. I'm speechless. Second update. Please subscribe. Damn, what is that? A meteorite. Why would a meteorite appear here? Hashtag FT. Quick, quick, escape, escape. Naval headquarters was filled with fear. A meteorite, as big as an island, was actually crashing towards naval headquarters? What's going on? Of course, it was done by Zhao Xu. Tengai Shinsei, a technique that can only be used by the holder of the Rinnegan, summoned huge meteorites to fall vertically from the sky. Of course, with the power of Uchiha Madara that Zhao Xu already possessed, Tengai Shinsei became even more massive. Almost indistinguishable from an island, with such meteorites falling, who could survive? A desperate situation. Could it be that the heavens want to destroy naval headquarters? Sengoku looked at the huge meteorite that seemed to cover the sky, his face full of despair. During this period, naval headquarters led by Sengoku can be said to have been losing everywhere. Being continuously educated by Uchiha Madara, the most miserable time was when even Admiral Akainu became a captive. Impel Down was breached again, the gates of justice were shattered, and they still haven't finished rebuilding. As for the Shichibukai, let's not even mention it. Although the Shichibukai stabilized the Grand Line's order and brought 207 benefits to the world government and the Marines, bowing down to pirates was a complete disgrace to this Fleet Admiral. A series of failures. If it weren't for Sengoku's own strong will, he would have long been doubting his life after being struck so many times. However, now looking at this huge meteorite, even he couldn't help but feel a sense of despair. Sengoku, I have already ordered the soldiers to evacuate urgently. We should, Suru said in a low voice. Sengoku smiled bitterly and shook his head. In such a hurry, how many people can escape? With the strength of Sengoku and the others, it wouldn't be difficult to escape from under the meteorite and withstand the shockwaves caused by its impact. Advertisement, but for ordinary soldiers, it would be certain death. Even for ordinary officers, it would be a slim chance of survival. Sengoku raised his head, looked at the sky, at the increasingly close giant meteorite, and then, I won't give up. He gritted his teeth, his expression no longer calm like a Buddha, but rather madly said such words. Then, without hesitation, he took big strides and ran to the top of naval headquarters. Sengoku. Garp was also here at this time, his face serious. What should we do? Although they hadn't experienced meteorites much and couldn't calculate the destructive power of the falling meteorite like scientists, as strong individuals, they had their own estimation of the destructive power of such things. No matter how you think about it, there would be less than 100 people who could escape from naval headquarters. And that's including those who could escape in time from the outer circle, including themselves as strong individuals. Find a way. Sengoku's eyes turned red as he looked at the Marines frantically fleeing from the main entrance. He gritted his teeth. I refuse to believe that naval headquarters will be destroyed here. Attack. Let's attack that meteorite together. All right. Admiral Kizaru, who was beside him, no longer had a relaxed and lazy expression. Upon hearing Sengoku's words, he immediately extended his hand without hesitation. Laser. Whoosh. A laser shot out fiercely and landed on the still relatively distant meteorite. Meteor. Not a single trace of movement. Kizaru's mouth twitched. He was fast, but compared to the three admirals, his destructive power was slightly weaker, especially when compared to Akainu, who had the strongest destructive power. If Akainu were here. Kizaru's mind briefly entertained this thought, but quickly dismissed it. Akainu had already been captured by the Uchiha team and was now a prisoner. Besides, even if Akainu were here, would there be any solution? This kind of meteorite was no longer just a small problem of eliminating the naval headquarters, even the surrounding cities. No one knew if the Red Line, not far from the naval headquarters, would be destroyed by it. As for Marijoy, where the celestial dragons resided, perhaps it would also be annihilated. Looking at the huge meteorite in the sky, everyone could faintly see its friction with the atmosphere, turning its surface red. Many strong individuals refused to be outdone and displayed their ultimate moves. Aokiji gathered cold air in his right arm and released an ice bird, the blizzard beak, which had a powerful impact and froze everything in its path. Garp took out the accumulated explosive rocks from the naval headquarters, held them in his hand, and threw them like projectiles. Advertisement Sengoku transformed into a giant Buddha and continuously unleashed shockwaves. Suru hesitated for a moment, sighed, and consciously went down to oversee the retreat of the Marines. Her ability had extremely weak destructive power and was almost useless in this situation. It was better to go down and guide the surrounding ships to take in Marine soldiers and then escape from here. On the open sea, the impact of the meteorite should be much weaker, perhaps saving a few more people. As for the situation here, even if we can't slow down the speed at which the meteorite falls, how can we possibly destroy it? At this moment, the naval headquarters had turned into chaos. The vice admirals had an unpleasant expression and were hesitant. The lower-ranking soldiers were like ants on a hot pan, frantically fleeing. Even though they usually had excellent discipline and were elite soldiers, they couldn't maintain order at this time. Tashigi's face was panicked as she went against the flow of people and ran towards the dormitory of the headquarters. Vice Admiral Saitama hasn't come out yet. Why? What is he doing? Why isn't he escaping? Saitama's appearance was unique among the Marines. If Saitama had followed the crowd, she wouldn't have missed him. Tashigi gritted her teeth and rushed through the crowd, even enduring constant scolding and cursing. Finally, she arrived at the door of Saitama's dormitory. Bang! Without hesitation, she kicked open the door, and then... Tashigi blinked her eyes, looking bewildered. Vice Admiral Saitama, what are you doing? Putting on clothes. Saitama looked at her expressionlessly, halfway dressed, revealing his underwear and partially visible skin. Vice Admiral Saitama, don't you know that a meteorite is about to fall? I know, that's why I'm putting on clothes, Saitama said matter-of-factly. Otherwise, how can I go out and meet people, Tashigi? You make a valid point. I'm speechless. Chapter 105 I am a person who is being a hero. Please subscribe for the third update. Chapter 105. I am a person who acts as a hero, third update subscription. How can you go out without wearing clothes, right? Of course, not right, now is not the time to worry about this. Saitama Vice Admiral, the situation is very critical now. Don't worry about whether or not to wear clothes. The meteorite is about to fall, Tashigi said in a frantic tone. Actually, there are many people who haven't dressed properly, and they don't care. Why do you care about this? This is evacuation. It's fleeing. How can you expect to tidy up and leisurely set off like going on a trip? Saitama calmly said, anyway, there's still about a minute until the meteorite completely falls. That's enough time for me to get dressed. Tashigi was dumbfounded. Yes, there seems to be about a minute until the meteorite completely falls. But even if you get dressed within a minute, then what? How are you going to run? Saitama Vice Admiral, Tashigi was already going crazy. With your current state, how can you possibly have time to run? I'm not running. Huh? Tashigi was stunned, but she saw that Saitama had already calmly put on his clothes and walked over with big strides, casually saying, I mean, I never intended to run. Meanwhile, at the highest point of the naval headquarters, Sengoku's face could almost be described as ferocious, and more people were gathering around him. Not all Marines were willing to flee upon hearing the news. Some vice admirals and lower-ranking officers with a sense of justice climbed to the highest point of the naval headquarters and used their abilities to launch attacks at the huge meteorite. Logia users attacked with elemental powers, Paramisha users used their peculiar abilities, and some even carried cannons and fired at the meteorite. Alright, you all should leave quickly. Sengoku's face was ferocious. While he was launching attacks at the meteorite, not knowing if he could even touch the shockwave, he cursed, didn't you hear the order to retreat? Obey the order. But many vice admirals had an unpleasant expression, their eyes on the verge of madness. In this situation, how can we possibly leave? In reality, they didn't want to leave either. The naval headquarters was the stronghold of justice in the hearts of countless Marines. If this place was destroyed, it would be a great pain for all the righteous people in the world. Sengoku didn't want to leave, the vice admirals didn't want to leave, and there were too many lower-ranking officers who didn't want to leave. In fact, if it weren't for the retreat signal and the crisis at hand, causing some people to lose their judgment and instinctively obey orders, there would probably be even more people standing here at this moment. Advertisement Hina was also standing here, pulling out her gun and continuously firing at the meteorite. But the significance of this gun was almost non-existent. The meteorite continued to fall as usual, unaffected by Kizaru's laser, the vice admiral's cannons, or Hina's rifle. It just kept falling, slowly accelerating, and getting bigger in people's sight. What use are you all here? Sengoku punched, sending out shockwaves, and cursed, we still have a chance to survive, what about you? Sengoku's words were indeed true. The vice admirals were still somewhat capable, but what about the lower-ranking officers? Are they going to carry cannons and fire? Similarly, these weak soldiers who continued to stay here also had a high possibility of death. As for Lobia users, they were fine. After all, they could transform into elements, and the falling meteorite was a physical impact. As long as they weren't blown into the sea, their chances of survival were still high. However, the response to Sengoku was a series of stubborn faces. Sengoku, Garp, Zephyr. These older generation powerhouses have devoted their entire lives to marine. Although they did not end the era of the Great Age of Navigation, they have trained a group of tenacious individuals. Sengoku gritted his teeth, holding back tears in his eyes, and shouted loudly. Good. Then let's go together, anyway, it's a bit late to escape now. Finally, the people showed smiles, followed by wave after wave of attacks, ruthlessly bombarding the sky. Although the frequency of attacks is still chaotic, they seem to be more intense. Sengoku looked at the meteorite that was already faintly visible, indicating the uneven craters, and a touch of despair flashed in his eyes. In the end, is it useless? This is already a natural disaster. Please give me flowers. He took a deep breath and glanced at the soldiers still fleeing below. Although many people have already escaped, there is not enough time to evacuate everyone. T.O.B. Is it useful to evacuate? Can we really be safe by leaving a certain distance from the impact of these falling meteorites? Advertisement. This thought circled in Sengoku's mind, but there was no answer. Or rather, he dared not give a true answer. The people also smiled bitterly, collapsed on the ground, and gave up the attack. What's the use of attacking? Suddenly, a clatter, clatter. Calm and steady footsteps sounded. At the same time, there were faint female voices mixed in, such as, Saitama Vice Admiral, you can't go. And, Saitama Vice Admiral, don't go any further, let's hurry and leave. The people subconsciously turned their heads and looked over. It's you? Hina widened her eyes. Red boots under her feet, a yellow tight-fitting suit, and a peculiar cape draped over her body. Saitama. Oh, and dragging Saitama along, the leg hanging, Toshigi, who was trying to persuade him to escape. Oh, you're here too. Saitama showed his signature smile. Saitama, he came too. Sengoku breathed a sigh of relief. A touch of gratification flashed in his eyes. In this crisis, facing such a critical situation, being able to come, daring to come, it means the righteousness in his heart. Zephyr, you didn't make a mistake in the end. Saitama is also a man with a sense of justice. Just as Sengoku was feeling emotional, Saitama suddenly spoke not far away. Can you help me take care of Toshigi? Hina looked confused. The person Saitama was referring to was her. But, can't you remember my name? Who do you think you are? I haven't officially become your subordinate yet. Why should I listen to you? Hina snorted coldly, but the hostility in her eyes towards Saitama diminished a lot. Although he disobeys orders and lacks respect, he seems to be a good comrade. Saitama's pace remained unchanged, taking big strides forward. I am someone who acts as a hero, and then, suddenly leapt. Chapter 106 Meteorite Broken. The fourth update asks for subscription. Chapter 106. Meteorite Shattered, fourth update, please subscribe. It's Saitama. Everyone looked at that strange figure and naturally recognized his presence. Marine Supernova, the insubordinate, the hero. Originally, in this place where many marine elites gathered, when they couldn't see his figure, some people were a bit dissatisfied and criticized, feeling that this supernova was not living up to his name. But now, he has also arrived. However, what's the use of him coming? It's just one more person to die. The vice admirals shook their heads silently. But the fact that he came was enough to make many people treat him differently. The next second, Saitama's body slightly contracted, and then, like a spring, he suddenly leapt. Crack. The 280, sturdy naval headquarters building, strong enough to withstand cannonballs, instantly cracked under his push. As if it had been hit by a cannonball. Bang! Saitama, like an arrow leaving the bow, rushed straight towards the meteorite. A hurricane rose, blowing Toshiji's hair all over the place. Saitama, Vice Admiral. Saitama, Sengoku, Garp, ouchie. Everyone raised their heads and looked at the man who soared into the sky like a cannonball. Saitama clenched his fist with one hand, and the red boxing glove made a creaking sound as he gripped it. Don't fall behind. The meteorite, glowing red from atmospheric friction, fell with a loud crash and collided fiercely with that fist. The next second, boom, a huge explosion sounded. The flames on the meteorite, as if blown away by the fist wind, spread out with a bang, forming expanding circles. Crack, crack, the sound of countless rocks shattering echoed. Advertisement bang. If everyone were to look from above the meteorite at this moment, they would see a figure forcefully rushing out from the center of the meteorite. Saitama pierced through the meteorite, my city. The next second, the meteorite, even larger than naval headquarters, shattered with a loud crash. The meteorite, comparable to an island, broke into countless small stones and scattered in all directions. Like a brilliant meteor shower, it shattered. The people on the upper floors of naval headquarters widened their eyes in astonishment. Shattered? The huge meteorite, which not even an admiral-level attack could damage? Shattered. Unbelievable. Sengoku stared blankly, but then suddenly reacted when he saw the small meteorites scattering. Ouchie. I know, Admiral Ouchie took a deep breath, and an extremely cold wave of air emanated from him. Ice Age. Cold air was released and condensed in the sky, instantly forming an immensely huge ice wall. The next second, boom, 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 shattered small meteorites came crashing down, smashing into the ice wall. Qingzi's face turned red, and the ice wall crackled, making a series of sounds that indicated it was under immense pressure. But in the end, he gritted his teeth and withstood the attacks of the shattered meteorites. The heavy impact of the meteorites lasted for a full 30 seconds, which felt like 3 years of hardship for Qingzi. These are just shattered meteorites. If they were intact. Qingzi's mouth twitched, and he let out a long sigh. One intact meteorite was completely different from hundreds of thousands of shattered small stones. The former could destroy an entire area, while the latter could at most completely destroy the place where they fell. At the same time, the pressure was also completely different. On the other side, Saitama also descended from the sky and stood on the ice wall. Well, problem solved. The crisis of the naval headquarters being destroyed is resolved. Advertisement. This great news instantly spread throughout the entire marine, bringing tears of joy to everyone. Especially the soldiers who had not yet escaped from the naval headquarters. They knelt down and cheered. We don't have to die, not to mention not dying. No one died at all. Saitama's strike greatly reduced the force of the meteorites' impact, breaking them into countless small meteorites. And with Qingzi Admiral's help, they created a solid ice defense shield that covered the entire naval headquarters. It can be said that the crisis has been greatly reduced. And the biggest hero among them is Saitama. Salute to Vice Admiral Saitama. At Saitama's promotion ceremony held by the Marine, led by Sengoku, they loudly proclaimed. Swish, swish, swish. Below, all the Marines saluted in unison, their eyes filled with respect. All the Marines who saved the naval headquarters, who saved the symbol of justice in the world, and who saved the recent decline of the Marine, they all deserve this bow. Looking at everyone's respectful expressions, Saitama's face turned slightly red. If it weren't for his performance during this period of time, Zhao Xu would have made some mistakes. That meteorite was also created by Zhao Xu. But even Hina, who was usually arrogant, had to bow and apologize to herself afterwards, admitting that her previous hostility towards Saitama was wrong. Zhao Xu felt that he had done well. Well, after this incident at the naval headquarters, morale soared, washing away the shadow cast by Uchiha Madara. Saitama has become a hero of the Marine, a spokesperson for justice. And unlike before, where there were always people who criticized him, this time it was the entire Marine, plus the recognized hero of the world government. If it weren't for Sengoku's concern that Saitama would cause trouble if he saw the Celestial Dragon's behavior, the high-ranking officials of the world government would personally reward him now. Even now, Saitama eats in the cafeteria at the naval headquarters, and the chef always gives him twice as many fries, allowing him to enjoy his meal. In fact, if it weren't for the fact that the Marines still had 3 admirals and Akainu was only captured and not killed, this achievement alone would be enough to make Saitama become an admiral. However, Sengoku and others considered that it was still too short a time for Saitama to join the Marine, and he had just been promoted to Vice Admiral, so they suppressed the idea. But privately, many people already believed that Saitama would inevitably become an admiral, and even a fleet admiral. These were just a matter of time, and a relatively short time at that. Because whether it's Vice Admiral or Fleet Admiral, the biggest difference is the level of responsibility. When the enemy comes, the lower ranks can escape, but the Fleet Admiral must face the difficulties head-on, even if it means death. But, Vice Admiral Saitama, actually, these things don't really make a difference to you, right? Toshigi smiled, holding her famous sword Shigur. Of course, Saitama had a nonchalant expression but said matter-of-factly, if the hero runs away, then who will fight? Chapter 107 Trade with Uchiha Madara, the 5th update asks for subscription. Chapter 107 Trading with Uchiha Madara, 5th update, please subscribe. Saitama didn't stay at the naval headquarters for too long after all. Perhaps Sengoku was worried that Saitama would accidentally encounter the celestial dragons and cause some disputes he didn't want, Or maybe Saitama had stayed long enough as the Vice Admiral promotion ceremony had already taken place and his subordinates had been assigned. In any case, Saitama set sail again with new orders. But this time, the order was to negotiate with Uchiha Madara and return the prisoners? Saitama said in a dazed and cute manner. Yes, Sengoku nodded and glanced at Saitama. Don't you know? Akainu Admiral. After a moment of silence, he ultimately didn't say those words. Akainu Admiral had been captured by Uchiha Madara. This was an indelible shame for the Marines, but there was nothing they could do. Although the Marines were not afraid of sacrifice, they had a long history of not caring about the consequences. The strength of an admiral level was not something that could be easily abandoned, let alone the fact that neither the naval headquarters nor the world government could organize another team to attack Uchiha Madara in a short period of time. There were hardly any warlords willing to help. The previous world destroyer Brindi Valdo incident had given them enough excuses. And without the warlords, it was extremely difficult for the Marines alone to besiege such a powerful opponent as Uchiha Madara. I want you to go and help bring back Akainu Admiral, Sengoku said in a low voice, sighing. The world's forces of justice are dwindling, and we can't afford to lose Akainu. A reasonable reason. After all, Saitama was one of the few in the Marines who hadn't fought against Uchiha Madara. Again, you want me to go and negotiate, Saitama said, his mouth twitching. Sengoku, your tricky operations just keep coming one after another. Although Sengoku's reasons were very normal and flawless, how am I supposed to handle this kind of work? I'm just an actor who has been practicing for a year and a half, skilled in pretending, deceiving, performing, and being cunning. Alright, I understand, I'll go right away, Saitama sighed softly. The Marines' technology had always been quite good, and they had developed a non-mass-produced version of the Seastone ship, which was specifically assigned to Saitama. As a Marine Vice Admiral, he was entitled to such a high-quality ship. At the same time, although he couldn't be promoted to Admiral because the quota was full, he had no problem receiving such a ship. This high-quality ship not only meant the ability to traverse the calm belt with Seastone, but also represented more firepower, larger tonnage, and faster speed. As soon as Toshigi boarded the ship, she couldn't contain her excitement. This ship was much better than the previous one. It was big and spacious, advertisement even the soldiers' dormitories were much larger. On the other hand, Hina's expression was calm as she took over Toshigi's duties as the vice captain and calmly commanded the soldiers to operate the ship, steadily moving forward. As Zephyr's disciple, although Hina's position was not high, her knowledge as a marine was quite extensive. Arranging soldiers and organizing navigation were her basic abilities. Well, it should have been Saitama's responsibility as the commanding officer, but... Looking at Saitama's dumbfounded face as he looked at the scenery by the sea, Hina's mouth twitched, and she lightly hummed, going a bit overboard. HMPH, although you have the most basic sense of justice as a marine and your strength is quite good, you are completely unfit to be an officer. And there's the insubordination. HMPH, although Hina apologized to Saitama after the meteorite incident, her apology was only for her attitude, not because she thought her initial accusation was wrong. As a marine, insubordination was not allowed under any circumstances. Wait, hold on, it seems like I also disobeyed orders that day when the meteorite fell. Hina's face was filled with a conflicted expression. East Blue, Goa Kingdom. Actually, it can no longer be called the Kingdom of Goa, because the king and nobles have completely disappeared. But whether it's the residents here or the people of other countries, they are not used to changing their names for the time being. In addition, the Revolutionary Army is busy and doesn't bother to change the name of the country, so they continue to call it that for now. Did Marine attack again today? Robin walked lightly and approached Uchiha Madara. No, Uchiha Madara calmly replied, we haven't been attacked today. Although Marine, including Sengoku, was repelled by Uchiha Madara, it doesn't mean that Marine has been inactive. In fact, they have always been active, their action is the warships. After Uchiha Madara repelled Sengoku and others, although they retreated to the naval headquarters, the blockade that once surrounded the entire kingdom of Goa was not lifted. Instead, it continued to surround the entire island. Of course, the blockade was extensive, even utilizing some nearby reefs and marine bases. Marine warships have always been patrolling, attempting to block the surrounding waters. Even the Revolutionary Army's ships can only sneak onto the island under the cover of darkness. Marine not only maintains the blockade, but occasionally one or two ships come towards the Kingdom of Goa, approaching and directly firing, as if it were a buster call. At most, there were 5 warships that came directly, not aiming, and fired near the maximum range. Fortunately, Uchiha Madara's clones are distributed along all the coastlines, and whenever Marine approaches, he chooses to counterattack without hesitation. Advertisement Marine has suffered losses, but they persist in harassing, making people annoyed. At the beginning, Robin was worried and even thought of the buster call she experienced in her childhood, fearing that Marine would bomb the entire Kingdom of Goa. B. 0655073130334935331. Well, she got used to it. Marine still hasn't come. Robin muttered to herself in surprise. This is strange. Could it be that Marine is afraid to move forward because of the sacrifices? But soon, she shook her head. Marine has sacrificed a lot, but this kind of sacrifice of warships and ordinary soldiers is not something that the wealthy Marine cares about. They can easily pull out hundreds of warships and even more. With the world government, they can easily be replenished. Robin even considered whether Marine intended to use these sacrifices to exhaust the only person they feared, Uchiha Madara. Is everything okay with the civilians? Uchiha Madara calmly asked. No, 490, Robin shrugged. Under our coordination, the supply of various goods is still sufficient, and the revolutionary ships that smuggle in are enough to meet the needs of the people for a short time. But there may be some trouble in the future. I don't know when this marine blockade will be broken. Uchiha Madara nodded. He is only responsible for the battle, while the other matters are all entrusted to the revolutionary officers led by Nico Robin. They do have some abilities. As far as he can observe, the living standards of the people have greatly improved, and there are more smiles, even under the current blockade. Speaking of the blockade, Uchiha Madara squinted his eyes and looked into the distance. In fact, the marine blockade can be broken, and Uchiha Madara has this ability. But after discussing with Dragon and others, they unanimously decided not to break through the marine blockade for the time being. The world government is not powerless. The 5 elders have not made a move yet, but no one believes they are incapable. The goal of the revolution is grand, but the road is rough. It is not a good thing to take too much risk without sufficient strength. Slowly boiling the frog in warm water is the simplest way. First, turn the kingdom of Goa into the most reliable base for the revolution, and then slowly develop and infiltrate. It seems that Marine won't come today. Robin observed the coast and came to a conclusion. But shortly after she reached this conclusion, she suddenly saw a ship appearing in the distance. Huh? Marine? Robin was stunned. Uchiha Madara was also stunned and added in his heart. Is the main body here? Chapter 108 Uchiha Madara suddenly spoke, 6th more please subscribe. Chapter 108. Uchiha Madara suddenly speaks, 6th update, please subscribe. Marine? Robin squinted her eyes, a hint of seriousness flashing in her eyes, and judging by that warship, is it Saitama? Saitama? Uchiha Madara glanced sideways. Yes, a vice admiral, Robin nodded, then continued, but don't underestimate this vice admiral. His strength is definitely not inferior to an admiral. He's only a vice admiral because of his limited experience. Robin's expression turned serious. Why did the Marines send him here? What conspiracy is there? Ban, you must be careful. Uchiha Madara. Understood. After all, it's troublesome to act alongside my true self. Saitama's warship slowly approached, not firing directly like other warships usually do. Therefore, Uchiha Madara and Robin did not take the initiative to attack, but quietly watched the ship dock, and a bald man with a blank expression walked down from it. Hey, you guys are here. Saitama? Robin spoke up. Yes, it's me. Saitama smiled and said to the person beside him, Tashigi, I didn't expect my reputation to reach here. Tashigi. Well, our superior is good in every aspect, strong, and doesn't have an attitude. But this uncoordinated appearance is a bit damaging to the dignity of the Marines. So why is it that even though Saitama's reputation is not small, most pirates are punched to death for provoking him? Because they can't sense haki from Saitama, not the haki ability unique to pirates, but a domineering aura. Nico Robin, the Revolutionary Army, the offspring of demons, is indeed a cancer in society. I knew you would shelter this group of heinous criminals. Hina coldly snorted, her face showing displeasure. After all, it's a government that even scares an 8 or 9-year-old child. Just its existence is enough to threaten them, Robin replied without hesitation. You, Hina became instantly angry. Advertisement. An 8 or 9-year-old child? Saitama asked curiously. Well, Saitama, Vice Admiral, Nico Robin reportedly fought against the Marines in her childhood, destroying 6 Marine warships, which is why she is wanted as the offspring of demons, Tashigi explained. Of course, the world government wouldn't admit that we are afraid of Robin exposing their history and that's why they want to capture her. Instead, they gave a nominal excuse. Of course, even the people in the Marines probably consider this excuse to be true by now. Alright, Marines Saitama, what exactly are you here for in the Goa Kingdom? Uchiha Madara interrupted. I'm here to make a deal with you, Saitama confidently said. Let's discuss how to get the Marine soldiers back. Oh, Uchiha Madara narrowed his eyes. Come, let's talk in the room. The Goa Kingdom's palace has now been converted into the headquarters of the Revolutionary Army. Of course, the overly luxurious decorations were long sold off by Robin, who manages the finances, and a considerable amount of supplies were smuggled in through the Revolutionary Army's ships. And now, Saitama and the others have arrived, naturally bringing them to this place to serve as a meeting room. Marines' discussion about returning the prisoners of war is not difficult to imagine. Admiral Akainu is currently in the prison of the Goa Kingdom, refusing to eat or drink, showing a determination to not eat the food of the Zhou dynasty. The strength of an admiral-level fighter is not something that can be easily sacrificed, no matter where they are. Perhaps the world government can easily gather hundreds of thousands of ordinary Marines. But there are only a few admiral-level fighters, so it was within the expectations of the Revolutionary Army's staff that the Marines would come. Of course, they couldn't have guessed that Saitama would lead the team. But even if it was Saitama leading the team, it didn't matter. After all, it was this group of staff members who would discuss the details. Marine brought a team from the staff headquarters, and it seems that there are also people from the world government. On this side, Robin and the Revolutionary Army staff members appeared. As soon as both sides sat down, they began to argue. Advertisement, Robin said. The world government wants the hostages back. Sure, but how about lifting the blockade first? The world government personnel responded, the blockade cannot be lifted, it can never be lifted. If you provoke us, we will call the Shichibukai to beat you up. Robin sneered, come on, if you dare, of course. These words were translated by Zhao Xu. Robin and the others wouldn't be so straightforward. Among various insinuations, threats, compromises, and firmness, Saitama and Uchiha Madara sat calmly on both sides. Although most of the work was done by the people below, they were officially in charge of the hostage exchange. Returning the hostages was a must, whether it was the world government or the Revolutionary Army, they both had their desires. The world government hoped to return Admiral Akainu and the marine soldiers recently captured by Uchiha Madara. The Revolutionary Army also hoped to use these bargaining chips to exchange for certain freedom for the Goa Kingdom, to avoid being blocked by the world government and to obtain the right to free trade. After all, although the Goa Kingdom is not small, it is impossible for the island to meet all the needs of its people. They need to import from the outside and sell their own advantageous products to make a profit. The blockade of the Goa Kingdom by the world government for a short time is not a big deal, but in the long run, it is definitely unsustainable. Relying solely on the Revolutionary Army's smuggling at night cannot maintain the peace of the entire country. And this is also the most valuable bargaining chip for the world government, and if possible, they definitely don't want to use it. They want to completely seal off the Goa Kingdom, trap the Revolutionary Army and suffocate them here. Neither side is willing to compromise their trump cards, so the meeting has been going on for a long time without progress. And at this moment, Saitama and Uchiha Madara glanced at each other, and a faint purple light flashed in Saitama's eyes. Their gazes froze, as if they both lost consciousness for a second. Then, in the next second, they regained their clarity. The next second, Uchiha Madara suddenly spoke up. Chapter 109 Akainu is released from prison, 7th more please subscribe. Chapter 109. Akainu released, 7th update, seeking subscriptions. Enough, Uchiha Madara calmly spoke. His voice was not loud, but in an instant, it drew everyone's attention. We will release the captive Akainu, along with some soldiers captured during this period. However, we demand that the world government lift the blockade on the Goa Kingdom and sign a fair trade and exchange agreement with our Revolutionary Army, granting us the same status as non-aligned countries. This is our demand, and it is also our bottom line. If you agree, we can sign the contract. If you don't, then you can leave. Upon hearing this, the crowd reacted with surprise. Even Robin widened her eyes. In fact, what Uchiha Madara said was the goal of the Revolutionary Army. But is this goal easily achievable? How is that possible? Would the world government agree so easily? If they don't agree, why would we keep these prisoners and waste food? Robin was going crazy. Does he even know that now is not the time to be stubborn? Robin cursed in her heart, a hint of urgency in her eyes. It is normal for negotiations to fail. In fact, the demands Robin made were even higher than Uchiha Madara's demands. After all, asking for 140 is one thing, but actually getting the money is another. She had long anticipated that the world government would reject her demands and then use that as an opportunity to propose a lower-level demand. But what the hell is this? If you don't agree, then you can leave, now. Once communication is truly cut off, what will happen to the prisoners? What will happen to the blocked Goa Kingdom? Compared to Robin's anxiety, the officials of the world government had a difficult expression on their faces. Damn it, why did this Uchiha Madara happen to press on the bottom line that the world government entrusted to us? As negotiators, they naturally needed to strive for the maximum advantage for the world government. Advertisement, there is a bottom line, but that is just a bottom line, a limit. They absolutely have to keep everything within that bottom line in order to report back. Uchiha Madara's conditions happened to press tightly against the world government's bottom line, leaving no room for negotiation. Could it be that there is a mole among us? Who leaked our bottom line to the Revolutionary Army? The negotiators of the world government glanced at each other, thinking in their hearts. But that shouldn't be the case. Only the negotiators sent by the world government knew our bottom line, and there were only a few of them. How could they betray themselves? What does the Revolutionary Army have to bribe them with? Of course, there is also Saitama Vice Admiral, who is in charge. But Saitama Vice Admiral knows the bottom line, and when he is about to come ashore, he doesn't have time to leak anything. In an instant, the negotiators fell into confusion. A person hesitated for a moment and finally pretended to say, "We absolutely cannot agree to this condition of yours." "Oh, then you don't have to say it, please leave." Uchiha Madara reached out his hand and said, "You can go now." Negotiator. Leave? Akainu is still in prison, how can we leave? But looking at Uchiha Madara's outstretched hand, everyone looked at each other, what should we do? If we really leave, won't the Marines tear us apart? If you want to read an exciting novel, go to Filu Novel MI. The key is that if Uchiha Madara proposes a condition that everyone cannot agree to, it would be fine, but unfortunately, the condition is within the acceptable range. Damn it. If I find out who leaked our bottom line, then They had no idea that the one who leaked the bottom line was their own person sitting next to them with a silly expression on his face, drinking tea, Saitama. The communication between Zhao Xu's main body and his clone is not that convenient. At least, it is not easy for the main body to inform the clone of any news. But that's only the case when they are not close. Once they are close, as long as they see each other's eyes and use Tsukuyomi, an unknown illusionary world will appear before the other person's eyes. In this world, all factors, including time, location, quality, and geography, are controlled by the caster. Time can be stretched from an instant to 3 days. What else can be solved? Advertisement. The result is the fate of these negotiators. Facing an opponent who knows their bottom line, no matter what moves they make, it's useless. Cough, can we discuss this? Robin coughed, timely giving the world government a way out. Well, you're right, we should discuss it. The world government personnel coughed and accepted the way out without changing their expression. In fact, there is nothing to discuss. The Goa Kingdom can almost be said to have been conquered by Uchiha Madara alone, and he also withstood the attacks from the Marines alone. It is absolutely impossible for the Revolutionary Army to undermine Uchiha Madara at this time. Although the conditions imposed by the Marines are harsh, they are still within the acceptable range, and they are conditions that they can agree to. Although the successful transaction will not earn the world government's reward by lowering the conditions, at least they will not be punished for it. So, the transaction ended smoothly. Both sides were satisfied. After all, everyone had completed their own tasks. Then the officials of the world government naturally and without hesitation requested to visit Admiral Akainu, and the Revolutionary Army agreed. In the dim dungeon, Akainu had one empty arm and the other was handcuffed with seastone. He was very thin, with dry and peeling lips, but his eyes still carried a hint of arrogance. Although this guy had been playing the trick of not eating the food of the Zhou dynasty, he didn't even drink the water given by the Revolutionary Army. But relying on Admiral's strong physique, he persisted, not to mention dying. He never gave up on escaping. His eyes were full of determination, looking like he would continue to escape if the people from the world government didn't come. Even with the seastone handcuffs, the difficulty of escaping was astonishing. When he was led out of the prison by the people from the world government, the sunlight that came into his eyes made him squint, and then he saw the people from the Marines. Saitama. I made you laugh. Akainu's voice was hoarse. Obviously he hadn't replenished his water for a long time. When Akainu's eyes swept over a figure, they instantly filled with anger. Uchiha. Ban. Chapter 110. In fact, we still have a wave of hostages here. Please subscribe for the 8th. Chapter 110. Actually, we still have a group of hostages here. 8th update. Please subscribe. Uchiha. Ban. The erupting anger was like a volcano about to erupt. The fury in Akainu's eyes, if materialized, would definitely be much hotter than the temperature of flames. The officials of the world government's faces change. The conditions they had finally negotiated. What if Akainu did something here again? It's not surprising that the Revolutionary Army would blame the world government. It's the world government's problem. However, contrary to their expectations, Akainu did not rush out recklessly. Instead, he took a deep breath and closed his eyes. When he opened his eyes again, they had regained their calmness. One day, I will arrest you, he said coldly. To this, Uchiha Madara just snorted disdainfully. It was Robin who immediately seized the opportunity and turned to the officials of the world government, saying, if I remember correctly, we have already signed a treaty. What does this mean? Misunderstanding, misunderstanding. Admiral Akainu has just come out and may not be fully aware of the current situation, the world government official immediately reassured. In fact, both Robin and the world government officials knew one thing. This treaty was only created because neither side wanted to go to war at the moment. The world government was unable to mobilize the Shichibukai in a short period of time, and their own fighting power had been greatly depleted, making it difficult for them to take action. As for the Revolutionary Army, they were still in the early stages of development and took advantage of this opportunity to recuperate and cultivate new members. Both sides did not want to fight, and that's why they ended up with the current situation. As for that agreement, it has existed solely to be torn apart since its inception. So Akainu didn't care when he heard it. He snorted coldly and turned and left. It was Uchiha Madara who suddenly spoke up. Is the transaction over? Yes, the world government official said with a smile. We should also leave. Leave? Uchiha Madara suddenly said. Are you sure you want to leave? Why? Is there something wrong? Saitama asked with a smile. Advertisement? Nothing. Uchiha Madara's face turned cold. I just wanted to ask if you want to redeem other prisoners. Other prisoners? Everyone looked at each other in surprise. They are the Marine soldiers who were captured together with Akainu, and there are a few vice admirals among them. Uchiha Madara said calmly. Don't you want to redeem them? They are still alive? Everyone was shocked to hear this. Back then, when Akainu, Sengoku, and others launched their attack, it wasn't just a few of them who were targeted. There were 10 vice admirals and countless elite members in the fleet. You should know that this group of people originally intended to fight against the Revolutionary Army. They were filled with elites and could be considered the backbone of the future Marines. Perhaps a few more vice admirals could have emerged in the future. However, they were ultimately sucked into huge meteorites by Uchiha Madara's planetary devastation, and those meteorites are still floating above the coastline of Goa Kingdom. This is also one of the reasons why even the resolute Sengoku appeared somewhat despondent. The backbone of the Marines was broken, but now. They're not dead. They're still alive. Still alive, Uchiha Madara nodded. Are you going to redeem them? Planetary devastation is actually not a lethal ninjutsu, it is just a sealing technique. Sealing techniques are meant for sealing, not killing. Kaguya spent thousands of years in planetary devastation and came out alive and kicking, which shows that it is not lethal in general. Of course, Kaguya has a special bloodline and extraordinary strength, possessing a true immortality that is completely different from the usual. But now those soldiers haven't been sealed for long, they are in a sealed state and unable to move, but because of this, even hunger will be alleviated. The physical fitness of the people in the pirate world is also quite good. Akainu resisted for nearly a month and is still alive, even planning multiple escapes. Although ordinary soldiers do not have the physical fitness of Akainu, they are unable to move and cannot expend energy, so there should be quite a few survivors. They are still alive? The officials of the world government exchanged glances with a forgiving expression. Including Sengoku, they all thought that those people had long since died. Advertisement. Flowers please. If this group of elite Marines is still alive. We need to report to the world government immediately, the official said with a serious expression. This matter has exceeded their decision-making scope. Okay, Uchiha Madara nodded. The officials quickly reported, and the Den Mushi connected directly to the 5 elders. The decision of the 5 elders was also swift, at all costs, save these soldiers. Then came a series of verbal battles. The people of the world government wanted to take advantage of the fact that they are all soldiers, and they are all included in the contract we discussed before. But Robin and the others had already known this news and had already stated it in the previous treaty, specifically mentioning Akainu and the soldiers who recently violated the territorial waters. As a result, the people of the world government could only sign a series of treaties that betrayed their country, pay a large sum of money, and redeem these people. Then Uchiha Madara naturally released planetary devastation, and countless marines fell like rain, and in the end, the warships that had been absorbed also fell. Those warships ultimately belonged to the Revolutionary Army. They only returned the prisoners, not the warships. These warships will become important assets for the Revolutionary Army. After the transaction was completed, Saitama walked back with a dumbfounded smile on his face. This time, he was only a nominal leader. Looking at the departing Marines, Robin hesitated for a moment and asked, Mr. Ban, is it okay for us to let them go like this? These soldiers are all elite Marines, and we just let them go like this. The world government offered a large amount of ransom. But the reason why the ransom is so high is because the Marine soldiers are important. If we only consider this, just these Marines, along with Sengoku and others who have recovered from their injuries, can immediately recreate the military force that besieged the Goa Kingdom that day. Really? Is it okay? No problem, Uchiha Madara said calmly. As for you, with such a large sum of money coming in, how much can you improve the economic situation of the Goa Kingdom? It's up to you. And when will the school I mentioned earlier open? Chapter 111. My name is Makoto Ito. Please give me more advice in the future. Please subscribe for the 9th update. Chapter 111. My name is Ito Makoto. Nice to meet you. 9th update. Please subscribe. Schools are actually a very rare existence in the world of pirates. Unlike the world where Zhao Xu is from, where various high schools and universities flourish, schools in the pirate world are very few and far between. In fact, the majority of people have never attended school. Zoro lives in the dojo all year round, spending his days either cutting straw with a bamboo sword or engaging in basic physical training. The same goes for Sanji, who, apart from his training in Germa, has been working and studying in the sea restaurant, making it clear that he cannot attend school. The 3 brothers, Luffy included, are no exception. Luffy was thrown to the mountain bandits since he was a child. Bandit education, Ace is also similar. Sabo, on the other hand, comes from a noble family and had a private tutor, but other than that. Has anyone attended school? Perhaps some may think that just because it's not mentioned in the original work doesn't mean it doesn't exist. Otherwise, how would these people know how to read and write? However, Zhao Xu has been in the pirate world for some time now, and he hasn't seen many schools. The Marines have their training camps, which can be considered as schools. The Revolutionary Army also has training bases where people are taught literacy and combat skills. Robin comes from the archaeological island of Ohara, which should have specialized educational institutions, although Zhao Xu hasn't seen them. But other than that, he hasn't seen many schools. So, he decided to establish a school from the knowledge he has acquired himself. A school? Robin frowned. Honestly, I don't think this is a good idea. The Revolutionary Army has its own training base with a complete training system. We don't necessarily have to establish a school in the Goa Kingdom. The most important thing is that you only want to teach the basics and some knowledge, which won't be very useful for future battles. Indeed, Uchiha Madara, or rather Zhao Xu's proposed school, is completely different from the training camps in the pirate world or the ninja schools in the Hokage world. It is more like a school from the future, where they only learn subjects like language, math, science, and not combat. Of course, there will still be physical education classes. The future battles won't involve them, Uchiha Madara calmly said. The people cultivated by this school will be ordinary talents who can become government officials in the future, but not fighters. Government officials. Robin's mouth twitched. She wanted to say that government officials can also have combat abilities, like herself, an archaeologist who may sound like a civilian, but can still take down several strong men. Yes, that's how it is in the pirate world, where even intellectuals can defeat many people. Advertisement, for example, Sabo in the future. His position is the chief of staff of the Revolutionary Army, but what he often does is throw the troops and plans aside and charge into the enemy alone. Marine is also similar. The strength of the chief of staff, he, is not much worse than Admiral. With his experience, he can easily defeat several pirates without any problem. Staff officers like him shouldn't be gentle and weak, right? No, both of them are like pirate-style staff officers. Even though they are staff officers, they often have a certain level of combat ability. But Robin didn't say anything because she also knew that not all staff officers have combat abilities. Like Spandam. Those who can't fight among the staff officers are basically trash. Those who are not trash must be very skilled in combat. Alright, I understand. I will make arrangements, Robin sighed. As for the safety of the talents cultivated by the school, she didn't say much. Protecting the entire Goa Kingdom and preventing the fighting from affecting it may sound exaggerated, but the boss in front of her actually achieved this. Anyway, the world government gave a lot of ransom, and it was all earned back by this boss. It wouldn't waste too much money to establish a school. Uchiha Madara nodded calmly. Robin acted quickly, and the school was established quickly. Many teachers were staff officers of the Revolutionary Army, and Robin herself served as the principal of the Goa Kingdom's first high school. Advertisement by the way, that Goa Kingdom's first high school was named by Zhao Xu. The Goa Kingdom was the first territory conquered by the Revolutionary Army in the Four Seas and was recognized by the world government. Naturally, the Revolutionary Army mobilized many cadres to help the people of the Goa Kingdom rebuild their homes. With their help, the teacher problem was solved, and relying on the various good policies implemented by the Revolutionary Army in the Goa Kingdom and the solid foundation they had established, the Revolutionary Army began to recruit young boys and girls from the Goa Kingdom and threw them into the school. In Uchiha Madara's words, the reason why I fight is to prevent children from experiencing our pain and to give them a healthy childhood. Although it sounds a bit like what Senju Hashirama said, it is also a belief recognized by Uchiha Madara. After saying this, it even increased the authenticity. In short, after a series of efforts, the Goa Kingdom's first high school was finally established. Considering that the students have not received any formal education and that the Revolutionary Army has only been in power for a short time, there are still relatively few students enrolled. So currently, there are only a few classes in the first year, 5.7 classes. Goa Kingdom's first high school, Grade 1, Class 3. The innovative teaching methods, peculiar teaching system, and powerful teachers have made the new students excited. The boys looked excitedly at everything around them, admiring the powerful teachers. The girls were also curious about their surroundings, especially. A girl with a decent appearance saw a handsome boy next to her and couldn't help but strike up a conversation. Hello, my name is Kapumai. We're in the same class. What's your name? The slightly weak and handsome boy was stunned for a moment, then showed a gentle smile. My name is Ito Makoto. Nice to meet you. Chapter 112 Gilgamesh begins to act. Please subscribe for the 10th update. Chapter 112. Gilgamesh begins to act, 10th update, please subscribe. What should we do if there is no suitable place for a template performance? Then let's create such a place. The school is Zhao Xu's masterpiece, and it is extremely easy to add an Ito Makoto to it. Makoto has a weak personality and a dark family environment. He inherited his father's irresponsible qualities. In simple terms, he is a scumbag playboy. Although it won't bring much enhancement to Zhao Xu, it doesn't require much effort anyway. Relying on his handsome appearance, the Ito Makoto played by Zhao Xu is very popular among women. In less than a day, even though the school has just been established, he has already made friends with 2/3 of the girls in his class. The remaining 1/3 of the girls didn't refuse to get to know him because they didn't want to, but because the scumbag comrades thought those girls weren't pretty enough, so they didn't deliberately pursue them. Makoto's life is indeed a happy one, Zhao Xu sighed. Perhaps in the world of One Piece, compared to shy daily life works, it is much more open and generous. In any case, many girls have established good relationships with Ito Makoto, without any shyness. Although there are no particularly outstanding girls in terms of appearance and figure, this situation, which is almost like entering a country of women, is definitely enviable. Even Zhao Xu feels the same. It's a pity that Ito Makoto's template is not very useful, otherwise I would really like to play him well. Zhao Xu shook his head. It's a shame. Even if the girl is not particularly beautiful, she can still be conquered. Only enter your body, not your life. After all, I am scumbag Makoto. It's not that I, Zhao Xu, don't want to take responsibility, it's just that the role setting doesn't allow it. Please understand. Of course, Zhao Xu has no intention of playing Ito Makoto for a long time. Although it is very happy, it doesn't align with his goals. Occasionally relaxing oneself and enjoying a campus harem life that is different from the world of pirates is fine, but playing the role for a long time is useless. Advertisement Ito Makoto, who has no strength and even an average intellect, cannot bring any benefits to Zhao Xu. If it were Hido Kazuma, Zhao Xu would find an excuse to gain power and then take the opportunity to do various racing. But Aido Makoto is a different story. Uchiha Madara, Gilgamesh, Saitama's development is more important. Zhao Xu nodded. It's just about time to start acting. For Aido Makoto, let's leave it to the clone. Picking up girls is not a problem. Even if the violent factors from the world of pirates easily affect the school, or even the possibility of some bullying phenomenon, it is not a problem. After all, he is not only Aido Makoto, but also Uchiha Madara. Using some means casually is enough to smooth everything out. But there is still one problem that cannot be avoided. That is, if he wants to fully play the role, Aido Makoto will eventually be chopped by a wooden sword. Forget it, let the clone handle it. Unlike several fighting characters, Aido Makoto's daily actions can be maintained for a long time with just one clone. It's definitely not because Zhao Xu doesn't want to be next to a knife, it's just for convenience. Saitama has already added a lot of clones. When Zhao Xu was at Marine Base, he didn't just sit around. The clones he made during his free time are all left with Saitama. Uchiha Madara is also similar. Although the clones have been greatly consumed due to the constant harassment from the Marines, there are still many clones left from before. In addition to the clones Zhao Xu recently created, even if we include Aido Makoto's existence, it would be enough for a very long time. So, what's next? Since the great age of exploration, the waves in this sea have never diminished. But there is indeed one group of people who have been quiet for far too long. Hasn't our king's plan started yet? Zhan Yu Hunter Caitlin Adapang frowned. My sword hasn't tasted blood in a long time. Rain Shiryu touched the sword in his hand. Advertisement. The great Bacchus Jode didn't care and took a sip of wine. Having wine without blood is not satisfying enough. They are all extremely fierce pirates. Now that they have followed Gilgamesh, although they admit that he is a qualified leader, it's been too long since they had a break. This has already started to make everyone uncomfortable. After being trapped in prison for so long, they were finally released, but they're not doing anything? How can everyone adapt to this? They can endure for a while, but now they are almost at their limit. Suddenly, Doflamingo grinned and walked over from a distance. Doflamingo, you seem to be enjoying your time as a Shichibukai. Shiryu squinted his eyes. Yeah, we're just bored, Zhan Yu Hunter Caitlin Adapang chuckled. Don't worry, Doflamingo laughed. I'm already prepared. We can move on to the next step. The next step? Upon hearing these words, everyone was momentarily stunned, and then a sinister smile appeared on their faces. Before they could say anything, a golden figure suddenly flashed by their side. It was Gilgamesh. Have you contacted your people? Gilgamesh's face was proud as he spoke. Yes, Doflamingo chuckled. Guy D. Corrin has agreed to join your ranks. What we need next is a large amount of funds and a secure territory for his research and production. And I already have an idea for this territory. Do you want to hear it? Doflamingo grinned, his eyes narrowed. Gilgamesh remained calm as ever and said, as a king, I will naturally allow my subjects to offer advice. Is that so? Doflamingo smiled and didn't mind. However, a glint of cunning flashed in his eyes as he said, do you know a place called Dressrosa? Chapter 113. This king, never short of money. Please subscribe for the first update. Chapter 113. I, the king, never lack money. First update. Please subscribe. Dressrosa is a tropical island kingdom in the New World, known as the country of love, passion, and toys. Of course, the toys part hasn't come into play yet. For now, it is still the country of love and passion. 800 or 900 years ago, this place was originally the territory of the Don Quixote family, who ruled as kings here. At that time, the dwarves were treated as slaves and forced to work as laborers underground, making Dressrosa prosperous. After the Don Quixote family left Dressrosa and joined the world government, becoming celestial dragons, the Riku family became the new royal family of Dressrosa. The king at the time apologized to the dwarves, abolished their slavery, and used the legend of the fairies to prevent humans from disturbing the dwarves. But because they lost the labor of the dwarves, the country became poorer than before. And now, a group of powerful pirates has arrived on this land. So, they definitely can't come up with 1 billion berries, Doflamingo sneered, and this place will once again be under the rule of the king. He paused in his words, his eyes flashing with a hint of strangeness. He actually wanted to say that this place would return to the rule of the Don Quixote family. But considering the man next to him, he changed his words. Dressrosa. Gilgamesh squinted his eyes, looking around. Honestly, compared to the prosperity of Dressrosa in the original work, the current Dressrosa is still lacking from an economic perspective. The surroundings are somewhat desolate, and the Riku family is not a particularly powerful presence. On his way here, Gilgamesh even casually killed a group of bounty-exceeding pirates. This is the new world. Pirate forces have always been fierce. Although Doflamingo seized this place and exploited the Riku family and the toys to the fullest, from an economic perspective, the national power has indeed increased. My king, rest assured. Doflamingo smirked. Once we take over this place, we can eliminate the surrounding pirates and establish discipline in the surrounding waters. At the same time, I have a considerable reputation and channels in the underworld, and I can fully develop Dressrosa. Advertisement, at that time, this place will definitely not be like this. Doflamingo's words were resolute, because he truly has the ability. As the most renowned figure in the underworld, as long as he guides Dressrosa to become a trading hub for the black market, he can just sit back and collect money. Black market trade may be covert, but the profits far exceed normal trade. Weapons, slaves, intelligence. Under Doflamingo's guidance, Dressrosa can easily dominate these trades. Gilgamesh seemed as if he hadn't heard anything and continued walking forward. Shiryu of the Rain and the others behind him also didn't care, laughing and walking forward, completely disregarding Dressrosa and the Riku family. In fact, there was no need to pay attention. Doflamingo and his group can suppress the entire Dressrosa. There are already several people here who are no less powerful than Doflamingo. Why bother with the rest? With Doflamingo's plan and the support of his celestial dragon's background, there won't be any consequences. But even if we confront them head-on, there won't be any problems. At most, the follow-up process will be more troublesome. Dressrosa, but it's a member country of the world government. However, what will he choose in the end? Doflamingo squinted his eyes and looked at the front where Gilgamesh was. Will he choose my plan or go against it? Using Doflamingo's plan naturally requires putting himself, a celestial dragon, and the owner of Dressrosa, in the spotlight, and even nominally, Dressrosa needs to belong to Doflamingo. Bat. Should I use some means to make the world government clash with this monster? Doflamingo squinted his eyes, not speaking, nor paying attention to Gilgamesh's disregard, just walking straight ahead. Doflamingo also has the qualifications of a king and is not someone who would willingly submit so easily. Advertisement. Even though some of his subordinates have already started to accept their fate. My king, what do you plan to do? Doflamingo took a step forward and followed. I'm going to inspect my territory, Gilgamesh calmly said. No one paid much attention. Gilgamesh has a peculiar hobby of touring the world. Of course, in his words, it's touring, my territory. But since the whole world is his territory, he basically walks around everywhere every day. The place where he rested before, he would often move around, and even when he saw something, he would take action. It's as if he really is the king of that place. Then let's go around as well. This will be our playground in the future. A powerful pirate laughed and spoke, and everyone nodded. Soon, everyone dispersed. Shiryu and Diamante went to the Colosseum. Bartolomeo and Cavendish went to find a bar. Doflamingo hesitated for a moment but still followed behind Gilgamesh. As they walked around, he discovered that Gilgamesh walked east, then west, and finally entered a casino. Gambling? Doflamingo's eyes narrowed slightly as he walked over. My king, do you plan to play? Gilgamesh nodded. Hearing this, Doflamingo said, if you want to play, the casinos here won't be able to gamble with your gold. To be honest, Doflamingo didn't know why their boss had so many treasures in his hands, a bunch of gold-made cups and wine pots. Even if everyone in the crew drank his wine using his cups, they still wouldn't finish them. But gold is useless in a casino. At the very least, it needs to be exchanged for berries. And during this time, he has become familiar with their boss. This boss likes gold treasures but has no interest in paper money at all. He didn't even bring a single berry. However, upon hearing this, Gilgamesh only paused for a moment and said, I, the king, am never short of money. Chapter 114. Infighting? Second more please subscribe. Chapter 114. Are we going to have an internal conflict? Second update subscription request? Such an exaggeration. Doflamingo stood dumbfounded in the middle of the casino. In front of him was a pile of chips as high as a mountain. Gilgamesh yawned, while the dealer across from him was already sweating profusely. Although this dealer had already been replaced by 13 different people. No matter who it was, no matter how they cheated or used various means, as long as Gilgamesh placed a bet, it would always result in 100% victory. Even this was not relying on anything like listening or experience. He saw with his own eyes that before the dealer spun the roulette ball, Gilgamesh had already stated the result. And then, despite the dealer's best efforts, under various coincidences, it always turned out to be the number Gilgamesh wanted. This level of luck can no longer be described as luck, right? Doflamingo forced a bitter smile. The pile of chips in front of Gilgamesh was taller than a person, and they couldn't even fit on the table anymore, so they had to be placed on the ground. All the chips in the entire casino had been swept away, and if it weren't for Doflamingo standing behind him, it's likely that the 410 people in the casino would have come to stop him. And the initial stack of chips, which was taller than a person, was just a low-grade chip that Gilgamesh picked up from the ground when he first walked in. I never lack money. These words echoed in Doflamingo's mind. He believed that Gilgamesh never lacked money. After all, people with power never lack money. This is too exaggerated. Golden rule. Gilgamesh possesses the fate of having fortune throughout his life, never being troubled by money, living a life of great wealth. This is Gilgamesh's inherent skill. In legends, Gilgamesh claims all the treasures in the world as his own. The original texts of all the treasures kept in the treasure vault. Although it seems to be an ability unrelated to combat, it plays a significant role in the form of equipping items. Or rather, his battles are just about spending money. One by one, treasures, one by one, equipment, allow him to come up with the perfect solution no matter where he is or what crisis he faces. That should be enough. Gilgamesh yawned and casually said, they should be done playing too. Let's start our plan. As for here, Doflamingo, you can handle the details. Advertisement with that, he walked out of the casino. Doflamingo took a deep breath. In fact, it was almost as Gilgamesh estimated. Everyone had wandered around the kingdom of Dressrosa. Each person had found their favorite target. Basque Jote was interested in the wines produced by several wineries. Zhang Yu Hunter, Catherine Dopung and Yora picked out clothes from several clothing stores. Even Shiryu had his own target. I heard that guy who has never been defeated in 3,000 battles is quite strong. Shiryu grinned, revealing a smile. The group of wealthy individuals walked towards the palace of Dressrosa with cold smiles, not bothering to hide their intentions. Naturally, they were stopped by the palace guards. Then he was directly pulled aside by Senor Picara under Doflamingo's command. Just with guards, do they really think they can stop this group of people? Impossible. And so, they continued straight ahead, and soon arrived at the palace. Inside the palace, Riku Dold III walked out with the support of many soldiers. Doflamingo? Why would a Shichibukai come to see me? I never expected that in this world, there would be those who ignore my existence and call themselves kings, Gilgamesh sneered. Riku Dold III glanced at him, then shifted his gaze back to Doflamingo. He was just a king, a competent one at that. He didn't know much about pirates, but he was somewhat familiar with the Shichibukai, especially Doflamingo's identity, which made him somewhat concerned. Of course, among this group of people, he only recognized Doflamingo. Don't look at me, I'm just a small pawn under our king, Doflamingo smirked. But I can tell you why we're here. Dressrosa, that's our target. Advertisement they want to take over my kingdom? Riku's expression changed, but before he could speak, a soldier next to him couldn't help but interject. Who do you think you are, daring to? Riku's rule was relatively mild, and he provided various benefits, making him quite good compared to other kings. Naturally, there would be loyal soldiers like this. Bang! Before he could finish speaking, a large figure appeared in front of him. And then, a punch sent him flying. Bartolomeo said, don't interrupt at a time like this. We're not here for you, we're here for your king. Don't say that, Gilgamesh calmly said. Loyalty and righteousness go hand in hand. You can kill him, but don't insult him. Yes, yes. Bartolomeo chuckled. Perhaps Bartolomeo's attitude was too arrogant, but Riku's charm was still effective. The soldiers surrounding Riku drew their swords when they saw their comrade being attacked, staring at the other side with a murderous intent. Bartolomeo and the others showed a hint of impatience in their eyes. They were all extremely powerful fighters, how could they tolerate the provocation of these ants? Doflamingo squinted his eyes and suddenly took a step forward. Riku, judging by your expression, you should know my identity, right? And my power. So give this country back to me, As soon as these words were spoken, Bartolomeo and the others couldn't help but glance at him. Give the country back to him? That wasn't their purpose for coming here? Were they being played? For a moment, Shiryu and the others' eyes flickered with killing intent. To dare play with them, there would be consequences. Could it be that there would be infighting? Chapter 115 King Riku. I decided to surrender. Please subscribe for the third update. Chapter 115. King Riku. I've decided to submit. Third update. Please subscribe. Before King Riku could react, Shiryu and the others released their killing intent towards Doflamingo. Initially, members of the Don Quixote family, such as Trebol, hesitated and deliberated, but ultimately chose to stand with Doflamingo. Both sides were at a standoff. However, Doflamingo secretly sighed in his heart. That person named Gilgamesh has an incredibly strong charisma. After only a short time of contact, my subordinates still hesitated. The crew should stand with me. Doflamingo himself possessed a formidable charisma. Even in his childhood, Trebol and the others willingly joined him, obeying his commands and following his orders. He even brought devil fruit, the string fruit, to Doflamingo. Although Trebol and the others had their own ulterior motives, it was primarily Doflamingo's strong charisma that led them. But now, after decades of friendship, they still hesitated compared to Gilgamesh, who had only appeared a few months ago. This was because Doflamingo often made excuses to keep them away from Gilgamesh, not allowing them to have too much contact with him. Otherwise, the same went for the powerful individuals. Gilgamesh rarely killed civilians and even restrained others from causing trouble. On the other hand, Doflamingo took advantage of every opportunity, treating everyone to food and drink. However, when it came to crucial moments, the other party released their killing intent without hesitation. Doflamingo sighed lightly in his heart, but seemed unaware of the killing intent behind him. He said to King Riku, if you refuse, Dressrosa will be stained with blood. But I am not a devil, so I offer a bid of 10 billion to sell this country to you. Of course, if you don't bid, this country will naturally belong to me, and then, it will be given to my king. At the end, Doflamingo turned the conversation around. Upon hearing those words, the killing intent from Shiryu and the others finally dissipated, and even Trebol and the others breathed a sigh of relief. They didn't want to fight Gilgamesh. Seeing their expressions, Doflamingo felt even more angry internally, but his outward appearance remained unchanged. Seeking Dressrosa was a plan he had set long ago. Advertisement: King Riku's governance in Dressrosa was excellent, at least among many kings, he was considered the best. Such a person would have a considerable amount of resistance even if forcibly taken by power, which would affect Doflamingo's control over the country. So his original plan was to force King Riku to offer 10 billion and buy this country. However, King Riku definitely didn't have 10 billion, so he had to raise money from the people. At the same time, compromising with the pirates was a very embarrassing act for the royal family. As long as he threatened a little, King Riku would definitely keep it a secret. With his reputation over the years, he could easily borrow money from the people. Then, once Doflamingo obtained the money, naturally, he would control King Riku and make him slaughter the people, causing them to lose trust overnight. Using the name of the Don Quixote family and his formidable power, he could easily seize the throne. Although he had already been stripped of the title of Celestial Dragons, borrowing this name wouldn't elicit a strong reaction from the world government. This plan was indeed successful. In the future, the residents of Dressrosa trusted Doflamingo and his group, and all the resentment was borne by the Riku family. The country's economy developed rapidly, although it was built on the exploitation of the dwarves and the people turned into toys. However, now he has become a subordinate of Gilgamesh, so naturally he cannot become the ruler of Dressrosa. But as long as Gilgamesh agrees to his words here, when facing the world government, he will need him as a shield, so he still has a chance to become the king of Dressrosa. However, at this moment, boring. Gilgamesh's face remained calm as he disdainfully spoke. Doflamingo, I didn't expect you to be such a boring person. Please give me flowers. Zero anger flashed across Doflamingo's face, but he quickly suppressed it. He had already told Gilgamesh about his plan, of course it wasn't approved. And when he had just made a move that seemed like a betrayal. This arrogant man didn't even change his expression. Borrow money? Plan? Why play these tricks? Advertisement? Gilgamesh took a step forward and calmly looked at King Riku. Would you dare to talk to me? Although you are just a false king, you are still a man called a king. King Riku's face and expression changed, and in the end, he nodded heavily. Good. Zero. King Riku and Gilgamesh calmly walked into the palace's hall and asked everyone to leave. Shiryu and the others were not worried at all that something unexpected would happen to Gilgamesh, so they had an indifferent look on their faces. It was Doflamingo who furrowed his brows. What does he want to do? Why does he want to have a private conversation with King Riku? Why wasn't my plan approved? What does he want to do? Doflamingo looked at the closed palace gate and couldn't help but worry. Among Gilgamesh's group, he was actually nothing. There were at least 3 people who were on par with him in terms of strength, and he still hadn't seen Gilgamesh's limits. The only difference was that he had the title of the 7 Warlords of the Sea and could interact with the government. The government had also had some dealings with him in secret, but in terms of power, he was far behind. Doflamingo couldn't help but sink into deep thought, pondering Gilgamesh's intentions. Even during this time, when Luffy rushed back from the wilderness and fought with Shiryu, he didn't pay attention. After a while, the palace door suddenly opened wide. Gilgamesh walked in front, and King Riku slowly followed. Then, he took a deep breath, and the first thing he said was, I have decided to submit to Gilgamesh and hand over Dressrosa to him.